Welcome everyone. In this lecture we are going to study about organisms and population chapter, which is in 12th NCERT chapter number 13, comes under unit number 10, which is ecology. Okay, so now we should understand what is ecology, who coined the term ecology, and then we will see what are the levels of ecology, organism ecology, population ecology we are going to cover. So this is one short lecture. In one shot we are going to complete the whole chapter, right? So let us see. It's about the unit ecology. Now what is the meaning of ecology? We know all the scientific terminologies are derived from Greek or Latin. In the same manner, ecology is also derived from a Greek word, ecos, logi. Ecos means house. Logi means to study. Means when you're studying about your house, your planet, earth, a biome, then that is called ecology. Ecology is study of our own house, our own environment, right? And then what are the other synonyms of ecology? Before coining the term ecology, what are the other names we use? Hexecology is another synonym of ecology, and ethology is also other synonym of ecology. And then comes who coined the term ecology. Now Ernst Haeckel. Who is he? A German scientist called Ernst Haeckel. In which year? In the year 1891, he coined the term ecology. But who popularized the term ecology? Reiter popularized the term ecology. Reiter popularized it, whereas Ernst Haeckel in the year 1891 coined the term ecology. Then, who is father of ecology? Odum is father of modern ecology. And who is father of Indian ecology? Ramdeo Mishra. R.D. Mishra is father of Indian ecology. Is considered as father of Indian ecology. Now, we know that before starting every unit, we need to take about a scientist information. Now, in NCERT, before starting the unit, they have given introduction to Ramdeo Mishra. So, let us see this information. I already took it on the board. Let us see this information and then we'll get into the chapter. Now, who is Ramdeo Mishra? He is referred as father of Indian ecology. When is he born? On August 28th in the year 1908, he is born. And he completed his BSc, he completed his MSc, and he did his PhD in ecology from Leeds University, UK. He obtained his PhD in ecology in the year 1937 from the Leeds University, UK, under the professor. What is the name of the professor? W.H. Purcell, who is having Fellowship of Royal Society. Under him, he finished his PhD from Leeds University, UK. And then he came back to India. The first Central University of India is Banaras Hindu University, which is in Varanasi. There he established teaching and research of ecology in the Department of Botany. He established research and the teaching of ecology in the first Central University of India, which is called BHU, Banaras Hindu University, which is in Varanasi. And what are the research areas? Here I wrote it in the blue. The research areas where he worked is, he worked on tropical communities. We'll see what is population, what is community, and we'll see what are the regions, zones, tropical zone, temperate zone. Mainly he worked on tropical communities and their successions and their developments. He worked on tropical communities and their developmental stages, which is called their successions. Then he saw environmental response of plant population. Now, if it is hot, how the plant will respond. If you are watering too much to the plant, how the plant will respond. So, this is called environmental responses. He worked on environmental responses of plant populations, and he worked on plant productivity also. If the sunlight is more, plant will do more productivity, it will do more photosynthesis. He worked on plant responses, he worked on plant productivity. And his third research topic is he worked on nutrient cycles also, of which nutrient cycling of tropical forest ecosystem and grassland ecosystem. He worked on nutrient cyclings of tropical forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem. He worked on the environmental responses of plant populations and their productivity. And he worked on the tropical communities and their successions. Then Mishra is a person who introduced PG course of ecology in India, and he introduced PhD also in ecology. Till then we don't have specializations. So MSc botany or MSc zoology, like that used to be there. He introduced specializations like PG course in India. He introduced, and under his leadership he trained 50 scholars. He gave them the PhD degrees, and these people went into multiple parts of the world and they established this ecology in different disciplines. Then coming to the honors, what awards he got means he was honored with fellowship of Indian National Science Academy. He was honored with fellowship of Indian National Science Academy. World Science and Arts Academy also he has fellowship. On top of that, he got prestigious Sanjay Gandhi Award of Environment and Sciences. The Sanjay Gandhi Award will be given to those people who contribute towards environmental development. Since he was working on ecology and environment, he got the prestigious Sanjay Gandhi Award of Environment and Ecology. Then Government of India established a committee. Government of India established a committee of environmental planning in which year? In the year 1972. Under his leadership, the Government of India has established a committee of environmental planning, which later became Ministry of Environment and Forest now in 1984. Means the Ministry of Environment and Forest, the backroots, if you see, they were of the influences of Ramdeo Mishra only. Children, all this is scientist information, and in Neet examinations from here also they can ask you the questions. You should not ignore about that. You have to read the scientist information also. Take a screenshot, then we will talk about the starting of the chapter. In the first page, how did the author introduce us to the concept called organisms in ecology? We will see. Take a screenshot. Right. So if you see the first page, the introduction goes like, if we see the life on the earth, the author says it is fascinating and it is complex and it is amazing. Yeah, it is diverse because many organisms are there, and not just simple organisms, complex organisms are there. And if we see, we get fascinated looking at its development and looking at its architecture and all those things. So the author introduces telling that our living world is fascinating, is diverse, and it's amazingly complex. Now what do you mean by complexity? If you think complexity at biological organization, if you have to see complexity at biological organization, if you see, means the life started from molecules, right? Which type of molecules are called? Macromolecules. So macromolecules, they assemble to make cells, and the cells assembled to make tissues, the tissues assembled to make organs, organs will assemble to make organ systems, and organ systems will be there in an organism, or we can organism or individual, right? And group of individuals, group of same individuals will make one population, and group of populations will make one community, and group of communities will make one biome. Group of communities will make one ecosystem, and ecosystems will make one biome. Group of communities will make one ecosystem, and group of ecosystems will make one biome. So this is what we call it as biological organization. So biological organization means how is the organization going. So this is a complexity. Molecules like carbohydrate, proteins and fats, they combine to make a structure which is called cell. Similar type of cells will combine to make a tissue. Tissues will combine to make organs. Organs will combine to make organ systems. Digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, different systems are present in an organism. Same organisms group together to make human population, plant population, animal population. Now group of same organisms will make population. Group of different populations, plant population, animal population and human population of an area is called as community. Communities will combine to make ecosystems, terrestrial ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem, like that. And ecosystems will combine to make a biome. So this is a complexity. This is what the author has told. Now if after that the author asks some questions like, if you see the nature in terms of science, so you will find out so many questions. Like if we try to find out the answers for those questions, he's asking, why do birds sing? The first question the author is asking, why do birds sing? Second question the author is asking, how does the bird sings? Now how does the bird sings means it has voice box here, it has a rotating bone, it has a bone which makes sound there. So that vibrating bone in the voice box will create the sound. We can tell how does the bird sings means the answer for this question is it has a vibrating bone. It has a vibrating, we'll write this side, wait. how does bird sings means it has vibrating bone in voice box. Now that will generate the sound. And coming to the first question, why do birds sings? Actually, it's a call for the partner for mating. So why does bird sings means it's a call for mating. Now we got the answer. Now next, in the similar manner, the author has asked some more questions like why night blooming flowers are not colored. Third question, why night blooming flowers are white. The author has asked why night blooming flowers are white. Now because why they are white means, so black and white, in dark, in night only white color is visible, they need not spend too much amount of energy for making colors and all those things, pigments and all those things. So not to waste energy, they will not produce any color because color is not identified in dark. So for not to waste energy, and white is prominently visible. White is visible in dark, so that is why they'll be dark in color. This is one question. And next they asked like how does the bee knows that which flower has nectar? Next question, how does the bee know which flower has nectar? How does the bee knows which flower has nectar means, now they can identify the UV light reflections. Bees can sense the electric charge emitted by the flower, that is one way, or by reflecting the UV light also they can sense. We can write that bees sense electric charge emitted by the flowers. Now the flowers which are having nectar emit one type of charge, the bee can identify it. Or we can tell like the bee can notice the reflection by the UV light. Reflection by UV light. UV light can penetrate deep, and normal flowers where nectar is not there, there UV light need not be there. Normal light also will penetrate. If the UV light is penetrating and if reflecting means, because honey, nectar, it will be thick, only UV light can penetrate. So it can identify which flowers are having nectar means by the reflections by the UV light, or by sensing the charge emitted by the flowers also it can sense. Next question the author asks, why does the cactus plant has too many thorns? Why cactus has many thorns? Thorns or spines. Actually cactus plants lives in dry conditions. In dry conditions, in dry arid conditions, it should not participate in transpiration. It has to store its water. For that reason the leaves are modified into spines or thorns. Why cactus has many thorns means to adapt in arid conditions, dry conditions, one this we can write, or to protect from grazing animals like cows, goat and all. If thorns are there, they don't prefer to eat them, right? To protect from grazing animals we can tell, or they don't want participate in transpiration, they want to conserve their water. For that reason also the leaves are modified into spines here. And then the author asks, how does the chick recognizes her mother? Next question is, how do chick recognize her mother? Now after hatching from the egg, it comes out. How do it recognizes her mother means that process is called imprinting. What is that process called? The process is called imprinting. It is a combination where it can sense the smell of the mother, the touch of the mother, the voice of the mother, right? So it can sense the smell, touch, voice and by vision also. Now whatever big object, when it hatches out and comes, whatever big object which is near to it, means mother is protecting, right? She is incubating it, so that it can sense mother's temperature also, it can sense mother's smell also, it can sense mother's voice also. All this combination process is called imprinting. Through imprinting, the chick will recognize her mother. See how amazing is nature. So the author wants to tell, like, why does the bird sings, how does the bird sings, why night blooming flowers are white. So there's a reason behind everything, right? So after this, the author says, like, what is ecology? In the next page of NCERT, they tells what is ecology, what's the definition of ecology. Now we told ecology is study of house. Means ecology, what is it? It is the study about abiotic factors and biotic factors. Ecology is study of abiotic factors and biotic factors, we can tell. Or in other means we can tell ecology is interactions of organisms and interactions of organisms with the environment. How do we interact among ourselves and how do we interact with the environment? That is one definition. Or in terms of biotic and abiotic factors also we can give another definition. Now ecology, if you see, it is concerned with 4 basic biological levels. So take a screenshot, we'll continue. So we are telling the definition of ecology. After that, if you see, ecology is concerned with 4 levels of biological organizations, or 4 levels are there. What are the main 4 levels? Means organism level, population level, next one is community level and biome level. Ecology is basically concerned at 4 basic levels. Now what are the 4 basic levels of ecology? Means the first level is organism level. The second level is called population level. Group of organisms will make one population, and the third one is called community level. Group of populations will make one community, so the third one is called community level, and group of communities will make one ecosystem will make one biome, so fourth one is biome level. So these are the 4 basic levels of ecology. Now organism ecology means study about organisms is called organism ecology. Study of population is called population ecology. Organism level ecology and population level ecology is also called as horticology. They can ask us in Neet examinations, what is horticology? So ecology at organism level or population level is called horticology, and ecology at community level is called synecology. Ecology at community level is called synecology. These points are there in NCERT exemplar book. NCERT exemplar MCQs, you can find this. What is horticology and what is synecology, right? So we can also tell ecology at organism level is also called as physiological ecology. Ecology at organism level and population level is called as horticology, or we can tell ecology at organism level is also called as physiological ecology. Now what do you mean by physiological ecology? What do we study in physiological ecology? Means we see how does the organism adapts to the changing environmental conditions for its survival. So organism ecology, horticology, physiological ecology means we are studying about organism only. Here we will see in physiological ecology, we will see it tells us how does the organism adapts to the different environmental conditions. Physiological ecology deals with how does the organism adapts to different environmental conditions, right? Now what are the different environmental conditions? What are the different seasons? What are the different zones? How do we get that? Means now our planet rotates around the sun, so rotation of a planet around the sun and the tilt, what axis it makes, so we can tell rotation around the sun, rotation of our planet around the sun, and the tilt of axis what it's making, and the tilt of axis what it is making, on the rotation and the tilt of axis what it is making, this will result in variations in intensity of the sunlight, in the duration of temperature, 8 hours duration of temperature or 10 hour duration of temperature or 12 hours duration of temperature, depends on how is this planet rotating around the sun and what tilt, what axis is making. So it determines the variations. It determines the variations of intensities and it determines the duration of temperature. It determines the duration of temperature. This we can tell. This rotation of the sun, tilt of the axis results in variation in intensities and the duration, which will decide the types of seasons. Summer season, winter season, spring season will determine the seasons. Now, this seasonal variations, these variations they told means seasonal variations with the annual precipitation. Annual precipitation means rainfall. The seasonal variations with the annual precipitations. Now what do they result in? Seasonal variations and annual precipitation results in formation of major biomes. They result in formation of major biomes. Now they have given in NCERT the 4 major biomes of India are, if we have to see, the 4 major biomes of India are. They have given the pictures also. You can see the pictures in NCERT textbook. I'll just write down the 4 major biomes of India are. One is tropical rainforest, second one is deciduous forest, third one is desert, and the fourth one is coastal area. The 4 major biomes of India are, what's the first one, second one, third one, fourth one? Tropical rainforest, deciduous forest is first biome. Tropical rainforest is another biome. Then desert is another biome and sea coast is another biome. So these are the major 4 biomes. How did we get biomes? The different biomes depend on the seasonal variations and the annual precipitation rainfall. How do we get different seasons means how is our planet rotating around the sun and what tilt, what axis is it's making, it determines the types of seasons. Take a screenshot, we will continue. Right. Now when we talk about life, life exists not only in favorable conditions. Are you thinking the complete planet is having all favorable conditions only, favorable habitats only? No, right? So it has harsh conditions also. And imagine, is life there in that harsh conditions or it's there only in favorable conditions? I think life is present in all harsh conditions also. Means in stinking pits also life is there. Deep inside the oceans also life is there. In the dark caves also life is there. At higher temperatures, hot springs also life is there. So we can tell that life exists not only in favorable conditions, it exists in harsh conditions like hot springs, we can tell, deep ocean trenches, we can tell, rain-soaked Meghalaya forest also life is there, in the dark caves also life is there, in the torrential streams, everywhere life is there. Okay, so that means life exists not only in the favorable conditions, it exists in harsh conditions also, and to the changed harsh conditions it will show some adaptation so that it can survive there. Now in NCERT they have given a diagram where they showed us the 6 major biomes. We will look into those 6 major biomes and we'll see what is the annual precipitation there and the mean annual temperature there, we will see. In NCERT they have given 6 major biomes, so we can study the 6 major biomes with the help of this figure. So what should we take on x-axis and what should we take on y-axis? They have given on x-axis we are going to take mean annual precipitation, means the rainfall we are going to take it on x-axis. 50 centimeters rainfall or 100 centimeters rainfall, 150 centimeters, 200 centimeters, 250, 300, 350, 400. So mean annual precipitation rainfall will take on x-axis. Mean annual temperature we take on y-axis. Minus 15 degrees centigrade, minus 10, minus 5, 0, plus 5, plus 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 will take it on the y-axis. And what are the 6 major biomes? Means the first one, if you see, here is a desert. Now we need to check in a biome called desert, how much is the temperature, how much is the rainfall. If you see the temperature starts from here, means it is from 5 and it's going till 20. The mean annual temperature in desert is from 5 to 20, and the rainfall, if you see, it is still 50, right? It is still here. It is still here. So I wrote it here. In the desert biome, the mean annual rainfall, it is 50 centimeters, and the temperature is 5 to 20. It is from minus 5 to 20, yeah, plus 5 to 20 it is. Now in that manner we have to make a list for all the 6 biomes. Now let us see the second one is grassland. In grassland, what is the temperature, what is the rainfall? The temperature is from 0, it's starting from here, it is from 0 to 25 is the temperature. That's what I wrote. In grassland, the temperature is 0 to 25, and the rainfall, if you see, it is from 50 and it is going till 100. That's what I wrote there. It's from 50 to 100. Now third one, if you see, tropical forest. This is tropical forest. What is the temperature of tropical forest? The temperature of tropical forest is, it's starting from somewhere around 15 and it is going to 25. From 15 to 25, it is like this, right? So that's what we wrote. The temperature is 15 to 25, and the rainfall is, it's going from 150, 400 we wrote. Means it's from here. We have to take it little inside. We'll do that. It is from 150 to 400. 150 to 400 is the rainfall. The fourth one is temperate forest. This, the blue colored one, is the temperate forest. In temperate forest, where is the temperature? The temperature is ranging from 10 to 20. The temperature is ranging from 10 to 20, and the rainfall is from 60 to 200 centimeters we told. Yeah, I matched it at 200 centimeters, and it is from 50 like that we told. Means from here. From here, this is about temperate forest. And the next one, fifth biome, is coniferous forest. In coniferous forest, the temperature, it is from 0. Yeah, coniferous forest is here. We'll represent with black. Coniferous forest, it's from 0. We wrote it is till 15. Yeah, I took the temperature from 0 to 15, and in coniferous forest the rainfall is from 50 to 250. We started coniferous forest somewhere after 100 we started, means from 100 we can take, it is till 250. It is still 250. The last one is Arctic and Alpine Tundra. The last biome is this one, Arctic and Alpine Tundra. In Arctic and Alpine Tundra, the rainfall is from 10 to 100 degrees centimeter. It is starting from here, right? So means from 10 centimeters to 100 degrees centimeter is the rainfall. And the temperature is from minus 0. It is still 0. Yeah, we went till 0 only. We went till 0 only. So in NCERT they have given this pictures. Basing on this figure, I took the mean annual temperatures and precipitation values separately. In NCERT example, they asked one question like, for this particular biome, what is the rainfall and what is the temperature? We have to derive from the figure in this manner. So note it down all those values. They can ask us neat question on this concept also. And we told, basing on like how our planet is rotating around the sun, and basing on the tilt axis what it's making to the sun. So there are 4 different zones. So this is our planet and this is the sun. If the sun rays are directly falling on the earth, that region is called equator. Now from equator, if you see, this is the north pole and this is the south pole. So this pole is called as north pole and this pole is called as south pole. Now from equator is at 0 degrees. From equator, if you go 20 degrees north or 20 degrees south, from equator 20 degrees north or 20 degrees south is a tropical zone. Here and here are tropical zones. From 20 degrees north to 40 degrees north, or from 20 degrees south to 40 degrees south. So then what is that zone called? 20 to 40 is considered subtropical zone. And from 40 degrees north to 60 degrees north, or from 40 degrees south to 60 degrees south, what is it called? Temperate region. And from 60 to 80 degrees north and 80 degrees south, it is called as Arctic and Antarctic region. So basing on how much angle it is making, we can divide into 4 zones. What are the 4 zones? I wrote it here: tropical zone, subtropical zone, temperate zone, and Arctic and Antarctic zone. And what are the latitudes? We have seen there. Tropical zone is from 0 to 20 north or 0 to 20 degrees south. So I took 0 to 20. Subtropical, it is from 20 to 40. Temperate is from 40 to 60. Arctic and Antarctic are from 60 to 80. And what is the temperature? Tropical region regions are near to the equator, mean the temperature will be more than 24 degrees centigrade, whereas subtropical it will be from 17 to 74 degrees centigrade. Temperate will be from 7 to 17 degrees centigrade, and Arctic and Antarctic region the temperature will be below 7 degrees centigrade. Coming to the winter seasons, in tropical region we can tell almost winter is nil, winter is not there, whereas in subtropical region mild winter is seen, whereas in temperate region winter is seen but it's not covered with snow and all. Whereas in Arctic and Antarctic region it will be fully covered, the area will be fully covered with snow. Such type of winter is seen in Arctic and Antarctic region. Which type of vegetation we can find means in tropical region tropical forests, in temperate region deciduous forests, and in temperate regions coniferous forests, cone shaped trees and all are found. Arctic and Antarctic regions we find Arctic and Alpine tundra. So I think through the figures we understood what are the zones and what are the biomes. In each biome what is the rainfall and what is the temperature we understood, and in each zone what is the angle and what is the temperature, which type of winter season and which type of vegetation also we have seen here. Take a screenshot, then we will talk about the 4 major abiotic factors. Have a screenshot of this. Yes, they can give the same picture and they can ask you what is this biome A, B, C, D, E, F. They can ask you to identify the biomes also. So clearly understand the pictures which are there in NCERT, because NEET examination will be completely based on the NCERT content only. So diagrams and labelings also we should have thorough understanding. Now let's talk about the 4 major abiotic factors. How do they affect the organism growth and how do they affect the population growth? We have to see enough. Yes. Major abiotic factors. There are 4 factors, and the first and foremost important factor will be temperature. Among all factors, why are we studying temperature as a first abiotic factor? Means it's the most ecologically relevant environmental factor. So temperature, organisms depend on temperature for many things. That's why we tell. So out of all the 4 abiotic factors, temperature is most ecologically relevant environmental factors. And just now in the previous picture we have seen the temperature, as you're going to the poles it decreases, right? So means temperature is not constant all throughout. Temperature fluctuates, temperature varies. We can tell temperature varies as we are moving from, if we are moving from the equator to poles. From the equator, if we are moving towards the poles, what happens to the temperature? Temperature decreases. We can tell temperature decreases. In the same manner, as we are moving from the plain areas to hilly areas, again the same thing will happen. There also we tell temperature decreases only. So temperature is not constant all throughout the Earth's surface. So when we are moving from the equator to the poles, temperature decreases. When we are moving from the plains to the hilly areas, then also temperature decreases. There are certain regions where the temperature is below 0. There are certain regions where the temperature is very high, right? So we can tell at poles temperature is sub-zero. At poles, what is the temperature? The temperature is sub-zero, it is below 0. And at higher we can tell at dry conditions, we can tell at higher altitudes it's above 50 degrees centigrade also. At higher altitudes it can be above 50 degrees centigrade. When? In peak summer in tropical regions. Where do we find it? In tropical regions. Majority of the organisms, if you see, they work under an optimal range of temperature. Majority of the organisms work under a narrow optimal range of temperature, whereas there are certain organisms like Archaebacteria, if you take the bacteria which are growing in hot springs and thermo springs and all, they tolerate temperature up to 100 degrees centigrade also. We can tell majority, vast amount of organisms, they work at optimal temperature, a narrow optimal temperature they work. But there are organisms which can tolerate high temperature also. The organisms which can tolerate high temperature, so what are they called? Thermophiles. They are called thermophiles. Example is Archaebacteria is an example which tolerate temperature up to 100 degrees centigrade also. Then the enzymes which are present in Archaebacteria also can tolerate temperature up to 100 degrees centigrade, right? Since organisms depend too much on the temperature, so mango trees, if you see, they are not grown in temperate regions like Canada and Germany. That's what the example they have given in NCERT. They are telling mango trees cannot be grown in, they cannot be grown. Where we cannot grow? We cannot grow in temperate regions like Canada and Germany, because mango trees are grown in tropical countries. What's the optimal temperature for growing mango tree? Tropical conditions. So that's why mango trees cannot be grown in temperate regions like Canada and Germany. In NCERT they have given one example. Next they told snow leopards are not found in Kerala and Karnataka. Snow leopards, where are they found? They are found in polar regions. Why they will be found in Kerala and Karnataka? Not found, right? So second one they have given, snow leopards are not found in, they are not found in Kerala and Karnataka, right? And the third example also the author has mentioned here. So they tell that tuna fish are rarely caught beyond tropical latitudes. Tuna fish are caught in tropical latitudes only. They are rarely caught beyond, means temperature regions and all, subtropical regions and all, they are not found. The third example what they have given is tuna fish are rarely caught beyond tropical latitudes. Children, there are statement based questions also in the NEET examination, so we should be very clear with the NCERT statements. The same statement they can give you and they will ask you whether the statement is right or wrong, so follow carefully. What are the examples they have given? Mango trees are grown in tropical regions, so they cannot be cultivated in temperate regions like Canada and Germany. One example. Snow leopards are found in the polar region, so they are not found in Kerala and Karnataka. Second example. The third example, tuna fishes are found in the tropical latitudes, they are not caught beyond tropical latitudes. That's another example they told. Now temperature is very much important. Then what is the temperature? Optimal temperature is a favorable temperature. What will the temperature do for an organism? It affects the kinetics of the enzymes. See, in our body thousands of reactions will happen. All the reactions are mediated by enzymes, and enzymes are proteinaceous substances. The enzyme kinematics or enzyme kinetics depends on temperature only, and if the enzyme kinetics is working properly, then the basal metabolism also will work properly, then the physiological functions of the body will be performed properly. If the temperature changes, if the temperature fluctuates, then what happens? Enzyme kinetics gets affected, then basal metabolism also gets affected, then physiological functions will be altered for an organism, right? Take a screenshot, then we will talk about urethermal and stenothermal organisms. So basing on the tolerance, we can tell if the organisms are tolerating higher range of temperatures, then they are called as urethermals. If the organism can tolerate only narrow range of temperature, then what are they called? Stenothermals. Let us see that also. So basing on the temperature tolerance, we can classify organisms into urethermals and stenothermals. So urethermals are the organisms which can tolerate wide range of temperature. Urethermals are the organisms which can tolerate wide range of temperature, whereas stenothermal organisms, they tolerate very narrow ranges of temperature. They tolerate narrow range of temperature. Now we are mammals, humans are mammals. We can tolerate extreme conditions, extreme cold also we can tolerate, extreme hot also we can tolerate. Means we come under organisms which can tolerate wide range of temperature, means we are eurythermals. Birds and mammals are examples of eurythermal organisms. Examples are birds and mammals. Now if you have to write on the examples of stenothermal, means which tolerate only narrow range of temperature. Fishes, corals, red algae, coniferous plants tolerate very narrow range of temperature. Examples are fishes, corals, conifers and red algae are the examples of the organisms which can tolerate very narrow ranges of temperature. Now basing on temperature, there are some rules. Let us see those rules also quickly, then we'll go to the second abiotic factor called water. So the first rule is called Allen's rule. The first rule is called Allen's rule. Okay, so what do we say here in Allen's rule? The warm-blooded animals in polar regions, they have short extremities. So Allen's rules talk about the extremities, means ear length and the leg length they tell. So Allen's rule states that warm-blooded animals, in polar regions have short extremities, means they have short ears and short legs. To reduce the surface area, if the surface area is big, then they have to lose more amount of heat. So in polar regions, so heat they have to conserve, they should not dissipate it. So that's why their surface area should be less. So that's why the ear size and the leg size and all will decrease. So short extremities. So to reduce heat loss. So this is Allen's rule. Now let's talk about the second rule. The second rule is called Glauber's rule. Now let us see what is Glauber's rule. So as I told you, Allen's rule talks about extremities, they are short. Glauber's rule, think it talks about glamour, it talks about pigmentation then. So we can tell warm-blooded animals in polar region have less pigmentation. Glauber's rule states that warm-blooded animals in polar regions have less pigmentation. That is why polar bear will be very fair. So when we talk about glamour, that's called as Glauber's rule. Now the third rule is called Bergman's rule. So Allen's rule is about extremities, Glauber's rule about glamour, pigmentation, Bergman's rule is about body surface area. So in Bergman's rule we state that the warm-blooded animals in polar regions, so how are they, means they have very large surface area. Bergman's rule states that the warm-blooded animals in polar regions have large surface area. If they have large surface area to volume ratio, if you say, it will become less. If it is less, then they dissipate less heat. So Bergman's rule talk about the body surface area. It tells that the warm-blooded animals in the polar regions have large surface area. That is why polar bear is having large surface area. Glauber's rule talks about pigmentation. Polar regions animals will have less pigmentation. That's why polar bear will be white in color. Allen's rule talk about extremity size. The extremities length will be less, they told. Now next one is called as Wrench's rule. It talks about the size of the wings in a bird. So in Wrench's rule, we can tell that birds in the polar regions have narrow wings and acclimatized, adjusted wings. So Wrench's rule tells about the size birds' wings in polar regions. How are the wings? They are small wings. They are small wings and they are acclimatized wings, so they can adjust. Okay, this is about Renchi's rule. There's a last rule which is called as Jordan's rule. Let's talk about Jordan's rule also. Jordan's rule talks about the size of the fishes. So the size of the fish in polar regions will be large, he will tell, and large number of vertebrate also. Fishes which are in polar regions are of large size and they have more number of vertebrate also. If they ask what is this rule means, it is called as Jordan's rule. So fishes in polar regions are of big size. They are of big size and have large number of vertebrae also, and they have large number of vertebrae also. So children, all these are the rules related to temperature only. We are talking about the major abiotic factors. The first abiotic factor is temperature. So why did we mention about temperature first? Means temperature is the most ecologically relevant environmental factors, and temperature keeps changing. From the equator, if you move towards the pole, temperature decreases. From the plains, if you move towards the mountains, then also temperature decreases. At the poles, temperature is sub-zero. At higher altitudes and tropical deserts and all, temperature will be till 50 degrees centigrade. And Archaebacteria, if you take, they survive in such conditions where the temperature is till 100 degrees centigrade also. So organisms, they need optimal range of temperatures. So that is why mango trees are not grown in tropical regions, temperate regions like Canada and Germany. Now snow leopards cannot be found in Kerala and Karnataka. Tuna fish are rarely caught beyond tropical latitudes. So these are the examples. Now depending upon the temperature tolerance, we have divided them into Urethermal and Stenothermal. Urethermal means which can tolerate wide range of temperatures. Example, birds and mammals. Stenothermals means which can tolerate narrow range of temperatures. Here are the examples. And there are 5 rules we can talk about their temperature. One is Allen's rule, which talks about extremities. Glauger's rule talks about glamour. Bergman's rule talks about body size. Renchi's rule talks about the wings. And Jordan's rule talks about the number of vertebrae. Take a screenshot, then we will talk about the second factor, which is water. Now after temperature, the next factor which is important in terms of ecology is the water only. So without water, life cannot sustain, and the first life also happened in water only. The major component which is present in the cell, 60 to 70% of the composition is water only, right? So there are some regions on the land which are very dry. So how do they survive? Means they have certain adaptations to survive in such low water conditions. So we finished the first factor, which is temperature. Now we are talking about the second factor, which is water. So we are telling next to temperature, water is another important factor. Water is important for life to sustain. If the life should sustain on the earth, means water is important. How much water is important? We can know that the first life originated in water only, in presence of water only. So we can tell the first life originated in water only. And we can tell that, like, without water, life will not sustain. And in the cell, 60 to 70% is water content only. So all these points signifies how much water plays an important role. Water is a universal solvent. Almost all the reactions happen in the water medium only. Now in deserts, the plants and animals which are living in the deserts, they show many adaptations to survive under such water stressful conditions. So the plants and animals which live in deserts, what do they show? They show many adaptations. They show many adaptations to survive in dry and arid conditions. In that dry and arid conditions, if they have to survive, they'll do so many modifications, so many adaptations. So are you thinking that the plants and animals which are in aquatic environments, they don't have any water related problems because water is abundant around it? No, it's wrong. Even aquatic organisms, aquatic plants and animals also will have water related problems. Which type of water related problems? Water quality and water quantity. Dry organisms have water related problems, it's okay. So we can also tell that even aquatic plants and animals also show or also face water related problems. Which type of problems? Related to water quality, related to water quantity problems they face. Now we tell the 3/4 area of the land is covered by water only. 3/4 area of land is occupied by water only. Again, in this water, freshwater bodies are less. Freshwater bodies are less. Seawater bodies, marine water bodies are more. Marine water bodies are more. Now, marine water bodies means they have salt. The salt concentration is measured as salinity. Salinity, how do we express it? So we express the amount of salinity in parts per thousand. We measure salinity in parts per thousand. Basing on the salinity, we can divide the water bodies into 3 types. If the amount of salinity is 5 parts per thousand, then the water body is called inland water body. If the salinity concentration is 30 to 35 parts per thousand, then that is called as sea water body. If the salinity is more than 100 parts per thousand, then that is called as hypersaline lagoons. So basing on the salinity, we are dividing the water bodies into 3 types. If it is 5 parts per thousand, it is called inland water body. If it is 30 to 35 parts per thousand, it is called sea water body. If it's more than 100 parts per thousand, it's called hypersaline lagoons. So parts per thousand. But if I ask you in terms of percentage, percentage is for 100. So then it becomes percentage means 0.5. And this becomes 3 to 3.5 percentage. And this becomes 10 percentage. This point has also been touched in NCERT example or MCQs. So if they're asking salinity, tell it in terms parts per thousand. If they're asking you in percentages, so here are the values of the percentages. Again, basing on the tolerance level, we can classify the organisms into stenohaline and urehaline. Stenohaline means which can tolerate only narrow ranges of salinity. Urehaline means which can tolerate wide ranges of salinity. Stenohaline are the organisms which can tolerate only narrow range of temperatures, whereas urehaline means they tolerate wide range of temperatures. They can tolerate wide range of temperatures. Now, if you take the fishes which go for swarming, they go from freshwater to marine water, from marine water they go to freshwater, such type, they are growing in freshwater also, they are growing in marine water also. That means they are urehaline. Whereas stenohaline means freshwater fishes you take. If you take the freshwater, if you drop it in marine water, they will die. Okay. So stenohaline means normal freshwater fishes are the examples here. Urehaline means the fishes which go for swarming from the freshwater to marine water or from the marine water for freshwater are examples of urehaline. Take a screenshot, we will continue. We are talking about the second abiotic factor, that is water. Now, what do you mean by neretic organisms? What do you mean by pelagic organisms? We need to know. If the organisms are in coastal water bodies, they are called neretic organisms. Neretic organisms means if the organisms are in coastal water bodies. And if the organisms are in open water bodies, then we use a word called pelagic. Neretic for coastal water bodies means pelagic word we use for organisms which are in open water bodies. Now, pelagic organisms, open water bodies animals, but they are small, they are microscopic, and if they are floating, what are they called? Pelagic organisms which are small, microscopic and floating, they are called planktonic. So they are pelagic organisms only, but they are big and they are active swimmers. What are they called? If they are active swimmers, they are called Newstons. And if they are bottom dwelling animals, then if they are bottom dwelling animals, what word we use? Benthic. Standing water body. What is standing water body called? What is floating water body called also? We need to know. Standing water body is called as lentic ecosystem or lentic water body. And what is floating water body called? Lotic water body. So we need to understand carefully what is neretic. Animals which are in coastal water body are called neretic. What is pelagic? Means organisms which are in open water bodies are called pelagic. Pelagic organisms are small and microscopic, they are called planktonic. If they are big and if they are active swimmers, they are called as Newstons. If they are bottom dwellers, they are called as benthic. If it is a standing water body, then it's called lentic. If it is a floating water body like rivers and all, then that's called lotic water body. All this is information about the second abiotic factor called water. There's a third abiotic factor which is light, and the fourth abiotic factor is soil. Now let us talk about light. We know sunlight is the ultimate source of energy, and who can take that energy, and what are those organisms which take the energy and convert that energy into food? They are autotrophs, they are plants. So they wrote plants are the only organisms which use sunlight and they can manufacture their food, and they are called as autotrophs. All other organisms are heterotrophs because they cannot prepare their food. They depend on plants directly or indirectly for their food sources. Now the plants which love the sunlight, what are they called? And the plants which live in shade, what are they called? Sun loving plants are called heliophytes. Shade loving plants are called sciophytes. Sun loving we'll use a different color. Sun loving plants are called heliophytes. Shade loving plants are called sciophytes. This question they asked in Neet 2017 examination. Shade loving plants, what are they called? Shade loving plants which are canopied, grasses and all, under the big trees and all, they'll be there. They are called as sciophytes. Sun loving plants, what they are called? They are called heliophytes. Many plants depend on sunlight for their flowering. That concept where they are measuring the amount of sunlight is called as photoperiodism. Basing on the sunlight, we can divide the plants, how much amount of sunlight they need for flowering. We can divide the plants into short day plants, long day plants and day neutral plants. If the plants are requiring a light which is less than the critical light, then they are called short day plants. If the plants require a light duration which is more than the critical length, is called long day plants. And if the flowering pattern is not affected by the light duration, then they are called day neutral plants. Okay. Now not only plants, animals also require photoperiodism. Animals also, they check for the daytime, they check for the night time, right? So that is also called photoperiodism in animals. Photoperiodism in plants is for flowering. Photoperiodism in animals is for foraging, means for eating patterns, for reproduction also, and for migration also. Photoperiodism in animals is for foraging patterns, feeding patterns, for reproductive grounds and for migration. Now the animals, if they are active at the daytime, what are they called? Animals which are active in the daytime are called as diurnal. The animals which are active in the night time, what are they called? Nocturnal. And the animals which are active at the dawn, what are they called? The animals which are active at the dawn are called matutinal. And the animals which are active at the dusk, what are they called? They are called vespertine. The animals which are active at the daytime are called diurnal. Animals which are at the night time are called nocturnal. Animals which are active at the dawn means early morning, right? When the sun rises, that's called dawn. Which are active at the dawn are called matutinal. And animals which are active at the sun setting time, dusk time, they are called vespertine. Then there are some animals which are active at the dawn time and dusk time. What are they called? They are called crepuscular. Crepuscular means which are active at the dawn time also, dusk time also. Then animals deep inside the ocean. There are some animals which are deep inside the ocean. They don't even know that there is a sunlight source, celestial source of energy called sunlight. So then for those organisms, what is the source of energy? For all other organisms, sunlight is a source of energy. Sunlight is trapped by plants to prepare the food, and that food is our energy. We take that energy. Now for the organisms which are deep inside the ocean, who don't even know that sun is the source of energy, for them how do they get their energy? They're talking about decomposers, bacteria and fungi, bottom dwelling animals. So sunlight cannot penetrate deep into the ocean, then they don't get that light energy. Then what is the source of energy? Means decomposition, detritus. They do decomposition, they break the organic materials, from there they get the energy, they use that energy for their survival, right? And if we take algae, which algae is found on the top of the water body, which algae is found at the middle layer, which algae is found at the bottom layer? Green algae is seen on the top of the water body, brown algae is seen at the middle, red algae is seen at the bottom. So green algae requires more sunlight, that's why it's on the top of the water body. Brown algae requires moderate sunlight, that's why it's at the middle. Red algae need not require sunlight, that's why it's at the bottom. So all this is information about light. So here we discuss so many terms here related to water, and we discuss the terms related to light also. Take a screenshot, then we'll talk about the last abiotic factor, which is soil. Right? So the now last abiotic factor is soil. Now soil factors, what are they called? Soil formation, what is it called? Formation of soil is called pedogenesis. Then the soil factors are called pedic factors or edaphic factors, we can tell. And again, what are edaphic factors came in the Neet exam. So we are doing abiotic factors, in which we finish temperature, water, we finish light also. Now we need to talk about the third factor, light over. Now let us talk about the fourth abiotic factor called soil. Now let us discuss what is soil. Soil is a upper portion. It is a weathered portion, humus containing portion of the earth's surface, which sustains plant life, animal life and microbial life. So what can we tell? Soil is a upper weathered humus containing portion of the earth's surface. It is upper weathered humus containing portion of Earth's surface, and what it will do, it sustains life, let it be plant life or animal life or microbial life, right? So in NCERT they told the nature and properties of the soil are different in different places. So in one region the nature of soil is different, red soil is there, other region black soil is there, other region sandy soil is there. So we can tell the nature and properties of soil are not same, they're different from place to place. So nature and properties of soil are different from place to place. They are different from place to place. It's not the same, right? So the nature and the properties of the soil depends on four factors. Nature and properties of soil depends on four factors. What are the four factors? The nature and properties of soil depend on climate, which is the first factor. They depend on weathering, which is the second factor, and they depend on climate, they depend on weathering, they depend on whether it's a transported soil or sedimented soil, and they depend on soil development also. They depend on whether it is sedimented soil or transported soil. This is the third factor, and soil development is a fourth factor. So what is soil? We have given the definition of the soil here, and we're telling the nature and property of the soil is different from place to place, and we are telling that the nature and property of the soil depends on 4 factors like climate, weathering, whether it is sedimented soil or transported soil, and the 4th one is soil development. Now if we have to talk about the first factor, climate, so it can be humid climate or it can be arid climate, means it is dry climate. Okay, so basing on whether it is humid climate or dry climate, soil composition, the nature and properties of soil will differ. Now coming to weathering, weathering means formation of soil from the rock. The process is called as weathering. There are 3 types of weatherings. So one is called as, excuse me, so one is called as physical weathering, the other one is called as chemical weathering, and the third one is called as biological weathering. There are 3 types of weathering. Physical weathering, it involves mechanical forces to break the rock. Physical weathering, what does it involve? It involves mechanical forces to break the rock. Chemical weathering involves chemicals and pollutants to break the rock. Biological weathering requires lichens and mosses. Lichens and mosses are the organisms which colonize on the rock first. They secrete acids. The acid will corrode the rock and they help in soil formation, which is called as weathering. So we are telling the nature and properties of the soil depend on 4 factors. The first factor is climate. Depending on whether it's a humid climate or arid climate, the properties of the soil will differ. Depending on the weathering process, whether physical weathering or chemical weathering or biological weathering, it also differs. Coming to the third point, we are telling whether it is transported soil or sedimented soil. So if it is sedimented soil, so how does it sediment? Sedimented soil is also called residual soil. It is formed there in situ sedimentation. It is formed there and it got sedimented there. So we also call sedimented soil as residual soil, and it is formed by in situ. There itself it is formed. That is the meaning of in situ. Then coming to transported soils, if it is a transported soil, now then how is it transported? Is it transported by water, or is it transported by wind, or is it transported by gravity, or if it is transported by glaciers? We need to find out. Okay, so then what is it called? If it is transported by water, we call it as alluvial soil. You have to remember all these words. If the soil is transported by water, floods and all, what is it called? Alluvial soil. If it is transported by wind, it is called Illonian soil. E-L-L-O-L-I-A-N, Illonian soil. If it is transported by gravity, it is called Callovian soil. C-O-L-L-O-V-I-A-N, Callovian soil. If it is transported by glaciers, it's called glacial soil. So these 4 are examples of transported soil. Residual soil is example for sedimented soil. And the 4th one, we told it is soil development. The development of soil, I'll write down here, the development of soil is called as pedogenesis. Formation of soil is called pedogenesis, or we can also call this adaphogenesis. We can also call adaphogenesis. Okay, the soil formation process is called pedogenesis and adaphogenesis. Take a screenshot. We will continue. Yeah, there are certain characters like grain size, aggregation. Okay, so will determine the water holding capacity. Let us discuss about that also. We told the nature and properties of the soil depend on 4 factors. All those 4 factors we saw. Now various other characters. What are the other characters if we have to see? So various other characters, like one is soil composition. Various other characters, like what are they? First one is soil composition. Next one is grain size. Third one is aggregation. So all these three, what do they determine? They determine the percolation and the water holding capacity of the soil. Various other characters like soil composition, grain size and aggregation, what do they determine? They determine the percolation and water holding capacity of soil. They determine the percolation and water holding capacity of the soil. What do you mean by percolation? Around the soil grain, if the water gets coated, that's called percolation. What is water holding capacity? Between the soil grain and soil grain, there will be capillarity. In that capillarity, water will be stored. That's called water holding capacity. So the water holding capacity and the coating capacity depends upon three characters. What are the three characters? Soil composition. Second one, grain size. Third one, aggregation. If we have to talk about soil composition, under soil composition, how much percent of inorganic matter is there? 45% is inorganic matter in the soil. Inorganic matter includes minerals. 5% will be organic matter and 25% will be the air. We call it as aeration. And 25% will be the water content with the microbes. So this is called as soil composition. So in soil, what are the minerals which are present? Organic matter 5%, inorganic matter 45%, aeration 25%, and minerals and microorganisms and water is other remaining 25%. This is soil composition. Coming to the grain size, there is an organization. What is the name of the organization? International Standard Soil Classification System. What is the name of the organization? International Standard Soil Classification System. International Standard Soil Classification System has divided the grains, soil grains, into four. One is called clay, other one is silt, third one is sand, and fourth one is gravel. Now depending upon the size, so the International Standard Soil Classification System, they have divided into four. Clay, the size ranges from 0 to 0.02 micrometers. Silt, it ranges from 0.02 to 0.63 millimeters. Sand ranges from 0.63 to 2 millimeters. Gravel ranges from 2 millimeters to 63 millimeters. If the particle of the soil is in the range of 2 to 63 millimeters, call it as gravel. If it is from 0.63 to 2 millimeters, it is called sand. So this comes under grain size. Coming to aggregation, in the soil, if you add a drop of water, it aggregates, right? So if we are adding, that's called artificial aggregate. If the rain comes and if the aggregate happens, that's called natural aggregate. What is natural aggregation called and what is artificial aggregation called? I'll write down here. Natural aggregation is called PED. Artificial aggregation is called clods. Now, these are the points. Soil composition means this. Grain size means this. And aggregation, PEDA, cloda, they determine the percolation and the water holding capacity of the soil. There are different types of soil. One is called as loam soil. Other one is called as clayey soil. Third one is called as sandy soil. So now out of this, which is good for cultivation, means loam soil is good for cultivation. And why loam soil is good for cultivation? What is the composition? If you see, loam soil contains 40% clay, 40% silt and 20% remaining. And in the loam soil, aeration is good. Water holding capacity is also good. Aeration is good and water holding capacity is good. So ultimately we can tell this soil is good for plant cultivation. Coming to clay soil, in clay soil we'll tell 50% is clay and all others are 50%. Now in clay, water holding capacity is there but there is no aeration. So in clay soil, water holding capacity is very good. It can retain water. But aeration is very poor. That's why it's not good for cultivation. Coming to sandy soil, in sandy soil we tell 80% is sand only and the 20% is the remaining all three. Now in sandy soil also, like water holding capacity not at all there. Water holding capacity is not at all there, so that's why plant cannot grow here. Understood, children? Now when we have to talk about some other characteristics, like what's the pH of the soil, what's the mineral composition of the soil, what's the topography of the soil. So the mineral composition, the topography and pH determine which type of vegetation that is growing on there. Take a screenshot of this. We'll talk about the next point. Right. So these characters along with the pH, they determine which type of vegetation is growing there. So we can write these characteristics along with the pH, mineral composition and topography. Along with the pH of the soil, along with the mineral composition of the soil and the topography. What do they determine? Determine which type of plants will grow there, determine the vegetation. Now depending on the vegetation we can tell like which animals also will grow there. So the pH, mineral composition and the topography will determine which type of plants will grow there. Now if we have to talk about pH, alkaline soils will be there, acidic soils will be there, right? So alkaline soil means more minerals will be there and alkaline soil will favor grassland ecosystem. Usually in alkaline soil grassland ecosystems will develop, and in acidic soils forest ecosystem will develop. And most of the plants, you know, they grow from acidic to neutral range. Acidic to neutral range of pH is favorable for many plants. So this is about pH. Coming to mineral composition, we know that all the minerals except carbon, hydrogen and oxygen are present in the soil. They are formed from the rock by the process called weathering. Carbon, hydrogen and oxygen are absorbed by the plant from the atmosphere. So all the minerals which are present in the soil, which are being added to the soil by weathering, are this called mineral composition. And coming to topography, topography means we have to talk about soil profile. We have to talk about soil profile. Now in soil profile we tell there are certain regions. First one is called O horizon, A horizon, B horizon, C horizon, and this is the rock zone, right? This is a rock zone. So O horizon is there, B horizon, C horizon, C horizon is there. O horizon is again divided into O0 and O1. A is divided into A1, A2, A3. B is divided into B1 and B2 horizon. C is only one zone and rock is a bedrock. Big rock will be there. Now what is there in the rock zone? So unweathered big bedrock is there. Now what is there in the C horizon means partially weathered rock is there. So in the C horizon partially weathered rock is there. Now what is there in the B horizon? So A horizon and B horizon contains good amount of minerals, aeration, water, everything will be there. So this is B horizon, and A horizon, if you see, A horizon also contains aeration, water, all those things with small amounts of stones, pebbles and all will be there here and here. So this A horizon and B horizon is good for soil cultivation, and these together, because they are good for soil cultivation, they are called as soil. It is called dynamic soil. So minerals, yes, they are there. Microorganisms there. aeration there, water holding capacity there. Since all are there in A horizon and B horizon, we tell it is soilum, it is dynamic soil, it's good for cultivation, and A horizon and B horizon are formed from these layers only. Coming to O horizon, so O horizon is not exactly the region of the soil, it is the upper place where litter, sand and all the dead remains and all will fall. So up O horizon, what does it contain? It contains all the litter, leaf fall, all that will be there here. Okay, so where decomposition has to start. So that's why if we have to see what is O horizon called, means O horizon is called as upper soil, A horizon is called as topsoil, B horizon is called as subsoil, and C horizon is called as partially weathered rock, and rock is the bedrock. Okay, so this is about topography. So the pH, mineral composition and topography, they determine the vegetation, and the vegetation determine which type of animals will grow there. This is about soil on the terrestrial ecosystem. In aquatic ecosystem also soil is there, no, deep inside the water bodies. At the bottom, what is there is soil only. Which animals are there in the bottom layer? Benthic animals. So the sediment characteristics of the soil in aquatic bodies, so they determine which type of benthic animals will grow there. So this is about all the 4 abiotic factors, that is temperature, water, light and soil. Take a screenshot, then we will talk about the next topic. What's the next topic? Like which type of adaptations they show, whether they are regulators or conformers or migrators or suspenders, we will see that. Have a screenshot of this. So the next topic is adaptations. Let us see what you mean by adaptation. In NCERT, they have given adaptation can be any attribute. Attribute means character. So adaptations are the characteristics of the organisms that will enable the organism to survive and reproduce in a given condition. When an organism adapts, then only it can survive, then only it can reproduce in its habitat. So that's the definition they have given in NCERT. Let us see. Adaptation is any attribute of an organism that will enable the organism to survive and reproduce in its area, in its habitat, right? So many adaptations are not very fast adaptations. Many adaptations are evolved over a long period of evolutionary time. It took long time during the course of evolution to gain that adaptation, and the adaptations are fixed for a species, right? The adaptations are fixed for a species, and adaptations are long-term evolutionary changes or the organism has developed, genetic changes what the organisms have developed. And basically there are 3 types of adaptations: morphological adaptations, biochemical adaptations, physiological adaptations. So let us see the 3 types of adaptations: physiological adaptations, morphological adaptations and behavioral adaptations. In NCERT they have given us the examples. I categorize them separately under physiological, morphological and behavioral. Let us see. Let us take the first example of physiological adaptations. Physiological adaptations are also called phenotypic adaptations. Internal adaptations can be taken as examples of physiological adaptations. Let us take the example of kangaroo rat in North American deserts. The kangaroo rat in North American deserts, it can survive its whole life without taking a sip of water also. So how can it can survive without taking just a drop of water also? Means it has some physiological adaptations where it can meet its water demands, like it will break the fats, it will break the fatty acids. Breakdown of fatty acids is called beta oxidation of fatty acids. When you break the fatty acid, it gets metabolic water. That metabolic water it will use internally. That's one adaptation. And the second adaptation is it will conserve all the water from the urine also, and it passes solid urine. So it don't want to pass the water through urine also, so that's why it passes solid urine. Another adaptation. So these 2 are internal adaptations only, so that's why we call them as physiological adaptations exhibited by kangaroo rat of North American desert. It survives its whole life without taking a sip of water by breaking the fats and by concentrating the urine, passing the solid urine. Let us see the second example. The second example is when we are climbing to higher altitudes. Here they have given, like when we climb a hill, Rontanga Pass near Manali, when we climb that hill, which is 3,500 feet it is. Now when we are climbing that high, we will face altitude sickness. The person, when he is climbing such a type of big hills, they face altitude sickness. How do the person knows that he is facing that altitude sickness? Means there are certain symptoms. The symptoms are nausea, fatigue, heart palpitations. Weakness is fatigue, nausea, vomiting sensation, heart palpitations, heart starts beating very fast. So these are the symptoms the person can establish when the altitude sickness arrives. So why is a person facing altitude sickness? As we are going high to higher pressures, then the oxygen levels in the atmosphere get reduced. When the oxygen levels are reduced, our body is not getting that sufficient oxygen. So because of that, we get altitude sickness, we get nausea, we get vomiting sensation, our heart starts beating fast. Now immediately how our body will cope up to that stressful condition means, then our kidney produces a hormone called erythropoietin. That erythropoietin will make ready-made RBC. That ready-made RBC will increase the more oxygen transport, and the affinity, the attraction between oxygen and hemoglobin also decreases, so that fast the hemoglobin molecule can deliver the oxygen. Affinity decreases, hemoglobin production increases, and breathing rate increases. So all these changes will increase the oxygen levels in the body, and within no span of time, within few times, so we will come back to the normal conditions, because RBC increased, transport increased, breathing rate increased, oxygen concentration increased in our body. So this is also an example for physiological adaptation. So physiological adaptation, first example, kangaroo rat we have taken, and climbing up the higher altitudes causes altitude sickness. So coming to morphological adaptations, we wrote 3 examples here. Morphological adaptations means external adaptations, right? So there is a rule which is called as Allen's rule. Allen's rule talks about the extremity sizes, means leg size, ear size they talk. So Allen's rule states that the mammals in colder regions have short legs and short ears, right? Mammals in colder regions will have short legs and small ears to compensate the heat loss. If they have long legs, then the surface area becomes more, it has to lose more heat. So since it has to conserve the heat concentration, so what it is doing, it is having shorter extremities. So it comes under morphological adaptation only. Next adaptation, polar sea aquatic animals. The animals which are in polar regions, the fish and all, so they have thick layer of fat under the skin. The thick layer of fat under the skin is called blubber. It acts as a heat insulator, it conserves the heat. That's also morphological adaptations. Polar sea aquatic animals have a thick layer of fat under the skin which is called as blubber, which acts as a heat insulator. It will not allow the heat to dissipate out. The third adaptations are shown by the plants, desert plants, cactus plants. What adaptations do they show? So that they can conserve water. Desert area, dry area, arid area, water will not be there. So if it has to conserve its own water, it should not participate in too much of transpiration. That means the stomata should be closed in the daytime and stomata will open in the night time to do photosynthesis. That photosynthesis is called CAM photosynthesis. Means cactus plants, Opensia and all, will do CAM pathway of photosynthesis. They close their stomata in the daytime to reduce transpiration. The leaves are not there. The leaves are modified into spines. The leaves are modified into spines. They have sunken stomata. Since the leaf is modified into spine, then who will do the photosynthesis? The flattened stem will do the photosynthesis, which is called phylloclade. So if you see the Opensia plant, in Opensia plant like this, green colored structures will be there. So if you are thinking this is the flattened leaf-like structure, it is wrong. So this is the stem. The leaf got modified into spines. So these are the spines. Since leaf is modified into spine, the stem becomes flattened photosynthetic structure, which is called phylloclade. So this is also morphological adaptation. Under morphological adaptation, children, we talked about Allen's rule, which talks about the extremity sizes. Then we talked about polar sea animals will have blubber, a thick layer of fat, which acts as insulator. Then we have seen plant adaptations. Under plant adaptations, we are telling it has thick cuticle, it has sunken stomata, the leaves are modified into spines, so stomata are closed in the daytime. They exhibit CAM pathway of photosynthesis. The stem is modified into photosynthetic structure. That that's all about morphological adaptations. Coming to behavioral adaptations. Behavioral adaptations, the very good example is desert lizard. So desert lizards which are in desert areas, nighttime it will become too much chilled. When night it becomes too much chill, when the body temperature drops below optimal temperature, it will be waiting for the sunrise. When the initial sun rays are coming, it will fastly climb on top of the mountains to catch the initial sun rays so that the body temperature increases. So this is called basking under the sun. So the desert lizards, they go early morning to the upper hills and they take up the sunlight to increase their body temperature. And in desert areas, afternoon will be very much hot. So then they hide under shaded regions to reduce their temperature. Early morning to increase the temperature, receiving the first sun rays is called basking under the sun. And afternoon when the temperature is high, it goes to the shaded areas. That is called behavioral adaptation. One more example is ground squirrels. Ground squirrels, so in order to escape from the upper layers of the soil heat, they dig, they burrow and they stay inside. That is also behavioral adaptation. Then few more examples also they mention in the NCERT textbook. They are asking us, most of the animals, they work under optimal conditions. They work under optimal temperatures, very narrow temperatures. But there are some bacteria which are called archaebacteria. Archaebacteria flourish at high temperatures. They flourish at high temperatures. How are they able to survive at their higher temperatures? What modifications they have so that they can tolerate that temperatures? That we will discuss. Take a screenshot of this. That comes under physiological adaptation only, so we will write it here. Archaebacteria are those organisms which can survive at very high temperatures, like hypothermal sea vents, hot springs, they survive. So what are the special features the cell is having so that it can tolerate high temperature? Let us see. Archaebacteria, it has a different cell wall and it has a different cell membrane also. The cell wall of Archaebacteria is called pseudomurine. It's called, which is made up of NAG and NAT. NAT stands for N-acetyl tolosamine. So archaebacterial cell wall is different from the bacterial cell wall. Bacterial cell wall is made up of NAG and NAM. Archaebacterial cell wall is made up of NAG and NAT. This is one difference. Okay. Now what difference it has in the cell membrane? Normal bacterial cell wall is bilayered. The cell membrane is having two layers, but archaebacterial cell wall is single layered. So it is single layered cell membrane it has, and in the cell membrane only it has branched chain fatty acids. So normal bacteria has normal fatty acids, unbranched fatty acids, but archaebacterial cell wall has branched chain fatty acid. This is the second difference. And in archaebacteria, the bond between glycerol and fatty acids, it is ether bond. Normally in normal fatty acids and glycerol we find ester linkages, but in archaebacteria it is ether bond. In archaebacteria they have branched chain fatty acids. Archaebacteria has single layered cell membrane. Archaebacterial cell wall is made up of pseudomurine. It's made up of repeating units of NAG and NAT. All these changes will help the archaebacteria to survive under high temperature conditions like hot springs and deep sea hypothermal vents, so which is also an example of physiological adaptations. Then many fishes which are living in marine waters, where the temperature is below zero, how will they survive? How will their body fluids not getting into cold? They're not getting freezed. What adaptations the fishes surviving in freezing conditions? the fishes which are surviving in freezing conditions, how do they survive? Means how do they prevent their body fluids getting converted into ice? Means those fishes have anti-freezing glycoprotein. So such fishes, what do they have? Anti-freezing glycoprotein. Those fishes will have anti-freezing glycoprotein which prevents the freezing of the body fluids. Those body fluids will not freeze, they will not convert into ice because they have anti-freezing glycoprotein. So this is an adaptation seen in the fishes which are in the water bodies where the temperature is below zero, where the temperature is converted into ice. Now one more example also is there about physiological adaptations. Many marine invertebrates and fishes, they live deep inside the oceans where the pressure is too much high, where the pressure is 100 times higher than the normal conditions. How do they tolerate that pressure? The fishes and invertebrates which live deep inside to the great depths of the ocean where the pressure is 100 times more than the outside conditions, how do they survive? Means those fishes will have bigger lungs, they have bigger air sacs. That bigger lung and bigger air sac, they maintain the same pressure like external pressure so that they maintain the conditions as it is. Understood? So all this is about adaptations. The next topic is population. Take a screenshot of this. We'll talk about population then. The chapter is about organisms and population. So far what we have discussed is information related to organisms. Now let us discuss about populations. Now you know when is World Population Day? July 11th is World Population Day. And what is study of population called? Let us see those terms, then we will talk about population attributes, right? So when is World Population Day? July 11th is World Population Day. And what is study of population called? The study of population is called as demography. Study of population is called demography. And the study of population ecology, the study of population ecology, what is this called? Democology. Study of population ecology is called democology. The study of population is called demography. World population is July 11th. Now when we talk about population, what is population? Group of similar organisms constitute a population. So group of similar organisms constitute a population. It constitutes a population. For example, if I take all these things, all these are black markers. So this constitutes a population. This constitutes red markers, means this is a separate population. So if you have to say what is population? A group of similar organisms, they constitute a population. Now in nature, come on, tell me any organism which is independently living, which doesn't depend upon nature, which doesn't depend upon soil, which doesn't depend upon any other organism. Is there any organism like that? No. Means we can tell in nature we rarely find single isolated organisms. That means they don't live well single, they live together in groups which make up the population. In NCERT they have given some examples of populations. They told cormorants in wetland. Cormorants means these are big birds, okay, which is having long neck. Cormorants, big birds in the wetland is that population. Now rat in an abandoned area is another population. Teakwood trees in a forest is teakwood population. The bacteria in a cultural medium is bacterial population. Lotus plants in a pond is lotus population. So some examples to tell what is population. NCERT they have given like big birds in a wetland constitutes the bird population. Lotus in the pond constitutes lotus population. Bacteria in the culture medium constitutes bacterial population. Teakwood trees in a forest constitute teakwood population. Rat in an abandoned area constitute rat population, like that they have given. So if you see at individual level, the individual is the one which has to cope up to the environmental conditions. But if we talk about population level, at population level, nature will select. At population level, natural selection operates to evolve the desired trait. We can tell at individual level, at organism level, or at we can tell at individual level. So it is the organism which has to cope up. The organism only has to cope up to the changes. But at population level, if you see, if we have to see at the population level, then we will see natural selection operates. At population level, natural selection operates to pick the desired trait. Natural selection operates to pick the desired traits. Okay, now let us see what are population attributes. Take a screenshot. So in NCERT, they told that population ecology as an important area of research because it links population genetics to evolution. Population ecology means it is called democology. Democology is an important area since it is linking population ecology to evolution. So now let us see what you mean by population attributes. Let us see what do we mean by population attributes. There are certain characteristics. I told you attribute means a characteristic. There are certain characteristics which a population will have where the organism will not have. Let us see which are called as population attributes. What are population attributes which a population is having which are not present in an organism? Now when we talk about organism, we tell organism is born, means birth we can tell, or death we can tell. A baby girl is born or a baby boy is born. So like that we tell. So at organism level, we tell a baby is born, right? Or an individual has passed away, death. Whereas at population level, we tell its birth rate, per capita births per 100, or we tell it is death rate. For population, births and deaths are not there. Birth rate and death rates is there. So the first attribute, we are writing it as birth rate. Second attribute, we are writing it as death rate. Now the third one, organism, we tell the organism is male or female, means sex is there in organism. So we call them, they are males or females. But in population attribute, so it is not that male and female. Here we tell sex ratio in a given population. 60% are females, 40% are males we tell. Means what are we giving? We are giving a sex ratio here. For population attribute, it is the sex ratio. So we tell in a given population, 60% are females and 40% are males. This is an other attribute. Now for organism, age will be there. Means an organism, a boy is 10 years old, 20 years old, girl is 30 years old, 40 years old, like that we tell. For organism, age will be there. But in population, age distribution will be there. All age groups will be there. Age ratio will be there. For population, we are telling age distribution is there. Age distribution is there. Means a population constitutes 3 levels of organisms: pre-reproducing organisms, reproducing organisms, post-reproducing organisms. So we can tell these are the attributes where the population has, where the organism doesn't have. Population has birth rate, death rate. Organism has birth and death. Population has sex ratio. Organisms has male or female gender, we will tell here. Population has age distribution. In a given population, all 3 age groups people will be there. Pre-reproductive people will be there, reproductive people will be there, post-reproductive people will be there. But whereas in organism, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, like that age we tell, right? So now when we have to talk about age distribution, so we need to talk about age pyramids. Okay, so there are 3 types of pyramids. Before going to pyramids, we will talk about what is birth rate and what is death rate. In NCERT, they mentioned that there are 40 fruit flies. There are 40 fruit flies, out of which 4 died. And they're asking what is a death rate? What is a death rate? So out of 40 fruit flies, 4 died, means 4 by 40. Then it will be 0.1. So 0.1 is the death rate. In the same manner, if you have to calculate the birth rate, so in NCERT they have given an example that 20 lotus plants are there in a pond and 8 were added, 8 got added. What is the birth rate they are asking? How many got added? 8 got added. And what are the original number? Original number is 20. So when we calculate 8 by 20, we get the ratio as 0.4. 0.4 offsprings is the birth rate of lotus. Death rate we calculated. 40 fruit flies are there, 4 died, means 4 by 40. So 0.1 is a death rate. This is a formula, children, to calculate death rate, and this is a formula to calculate birth rate. So take a screenshot, then we will talk about age distribution pyramids. Yeah, there's a scientist called Eltonian who designed pyramids. Eltonian pyramids we call, or ecological pyramids we call. Let us see the 3 types of pyramids. Ecological pyramids. We will use different colors. So the pyramids are called Eltonian pyramids, which is also called ecological pyramids. Okay, there are 3 shapes of ecological pyramids. The first shape what we get is a triangular shape. The second shape we get is bell shaped. And the third pyramid we get urn shaped, flask shaped. In urn shaped pyramid, to draw a flask, so here we say the pre-reproducing people are always at the bottom. Pre-reproductive age people at the bottom, reproductive age people at the center, post-reproductive people will be on the top. Now, if you see, this is a reproductive age. The reproductive age people are more, whereas the pre-reproductive age and the post-reproductive age. If the pre-reproductive age and post-reproductive age are less, excuse me, and the reproductive age is more, so which type of pyramid is it? This is called declining pyramid. It's called declining pyramid because it is the pre-reproductive people only who will go to reproductive age. Since they are less, when they go to the reproductive age, the reproduction becomes reduced. So that's why it leads to a declining population. That's why it's called declining pyramid. Whereas coming to this one, this is called urn shaped, right? Or we can call it as negative pyramid. And here this is called bell shaped pyramid, or we can call it a stable population, stable pyramid. Now in stable pyramid, what happens is pre-reproductive and reproductive will be the same, post-reproductive will be less. So if we have to draw pre-reproductive at the bottom, right? So this is pre-reproductive population. We'll draw with blue. This is pre-reproductive population, and reproductive population also the same we told. So reproductive population also should be maintained. Post-reproductive population we told it is less. So post-reproductive population, if we have to symbolize with red color. So if you see, it's like a bell shaped. So that's why we are calling it as bell-shaped pyramid. In bell-shaped pyramid, pre-reproductive and reproductive are almost the same, post-reproductive are less. Then that's called stable pyramid and it is called bell-shaped pyramid. Now coming to the first one, it is expanding pyramid. What is this pyramid called? This is called expanding pyramid. Or we can tell it is positive pyramid. The population is increasing, so it is called positive pyramid. So you can clearly see here in increasing pyramid, this is pyramid shaped, okay, it's dome shaped. Here the pre-reproductive population are maximum. So we have to show the pre-reproductive population are maximum. Reproductive population are less than the pre-reproductive. So reproductive population are here, they are less, and post-reproductive population are still lesser, right? So this is post-reproductive population, they are further less. So this is called expanding pyramid or positive pyramid. So here the population is increasing because pre-reproductive people are more, they enter into reproductive age and they increase the population. So that's why we call positive pyramid. It is expanding pyramid which will increase the population. So this is seen in a country like India, right? Now coming to bell-shaped pyramid, which is stable pyramid, this is seen in country like Austria. Whereas declining pyramid, declining population, you can find it in a country like Nigeria. So here the pre-reproductive people are more compared to reproductive and post-reproductive. Here pre-reproductive and reproductive are almost the same. There the reproductive age people are more, pre-reproductive and post-reproductive are less only. So here you get triangular shaped pyramid, here you get bell shaped pyramid, and here you get urn shaped, flask shaped pyramids. And these pyramids are designed by Eltonian scientists. So and they are with population ecology, so that's why they're called as ecological pyramids. Take a screenshot, we will discuss. Yeah. Now when we have to talk about the size of the population, the size of the population tells about its habitat. If the habitat is favorable, then the population size will increase. If the size of the habitat is not favorable, then the size of the population will decrease. So we can tell the size of the population is a measure about how the conditions are there in the habitat. So population density, we refer it as N. Population density is symbolized by N. So population density, sometimes we give it in terms of number. For example, if we have to explain population density in terms of number, in NCERT they have given in Bharatpur bird sanctuary there are less than 10 Siberian cranes. In Bharatpur wetland, in Rajasthan wetland they have given. So we are telling less than 10 Siberian cranes are there in Rajasthan wetland, or they can be thousands of Chlamydomonas. In a pond. So here about Chlamydomonas you are telling 1000, means it is number. Siberian cranes also you are telling 10 in number. So sometimes we can give population density in terms of number. This is one parameter. Now we can tell in terms of its mass also. Population density we can tell it in terms of mass also. If we have to tell in terms of mass, if we talk that there are one big banyan tree and there are many Parthenium grasses. So many Parthenium grass are there, but one banyan tree, if it is there, they have given. So if you tell this in terms of size, so you might underestimate the size of the banyan tree. Banyan tree is so huge. If you keep so many Parthenium grass also, it's not going to meet the weight of the banyan tree. So under such circumstances, it's not valuable to give it in terms of number. It's better to give it in terms of mass. So under such examples we will take biomass into consideration. Here you can give it in terms of number also. Sometimes we measure the relative density. sometimes we refer population in terms of relative density. For example, the fish present in a pond. How can we calculate the fish present in a pond? We can measure per trap. Now in one trap, if the number of fish caught are more, then we can tell relatively the number of fish present in this pond are more. In the trap, if the number of fish are less, so we can tell relatively the number of fishes in this pond are less. So instead of catching and counting all the fish present in the pond, which is not possible, we can tell in terms of relative density. So if it is in terms of weight, it will be the better parameter. Then we'll talk in terms of mass. Sometimes we can give it in terms of number also. For example, if we have to count the number of bacteria, in culture plate, how do you give this? So bacteria, which is a microorganism which can be seen only under microscope, which is so tiny structure, it is difficult to count the number of bacteria. But yeah, there is an instrument called colony counter. There's an instrument called colony counter. In colony counter, we can count. If we see this like this, so these are not bacteria, they are bacterial colonies. So the colony counter can just count the number of colonies, and we will tell these many number of colony forming units in one petri dish. So bacteria is counted in terms of CFU, colony forming units. Sometimes we measure in indirect ways also. We measure population density in indirect means also. For example, if we have to count how many number of tigers are there, going into the forest and counting the number of tigers is not a good task. So instead of counting the number of tigers, indirectly we check the count of tigers by their pug marks, by their prints, or by their fecal pellets. By their pug marks or by their fecal pellets, we estimate the number of tigers present in a land. So indirect measure is with this methods. Colonies for bacterial culture, relative density, fish present in a trap, we can tell it in terms of relative density. So if we have to give the mass, which becomes a more appropriate means, so then we go with mass, or else generally we go with the number. So these are the ways of defining population density. Take a screenshot, we'll continue. The next topic what we have is population growth. Now population growth is not static, it keeps changing. If the outside conditions are favorable, population growth will increase, growth will happen more. If outside conditions are not favorable, then the population growth shows a declining method. So the next topic is population growth. So NCERT says the growth of a population, is not static, means it keeps changing. Depending upon the effect of predator, depending upon the resources, depending upon the nutrients and all, it keeps changing. There are four main processes which determine the population. What are the four main factors? So population density we symbolize by N, right? So we'll keep that at the center. Population density is symbolized by N. So I told population density depends on four factors. So the first factor is birth rate. The first factor is birth rate. So per capita births in 100, how many birth rate happen? So birth rate is symbolized by a symbol called B. Population density is symbolized by N. Birth rate per capita births, how many births happen per 100? So birth rate will increase the density, will increase the population. So for birth rate, we have to take the arrow towards this and we have to tell it will increase the population. Whereas death rate, if you take, it will decrease the population density. So death rate, take the arrow away since it is decreasing, take the arrow away and show a minus symbol, and then we'll write down here it is death rate, and it is symbolized by D. B denotes birth rate, D denotes death rate. So these are the two processes, so which work normally in most of the conditions, local conditions. So under other conditions, immigration and emigration also will count. So let us see what is meant by immigration. Immigration means if the population gets added from other habitats, if the population are coming to this habitat, so they will increase their population density. Since they are increasing their population density, take the arrow towards the density. Since they are increasing, keep the symbol plus, and immigration is denoted by alphabet I. And if the people are moving out from the habitat, so then the density decreases, so that's called emigration. If the people are moving out, symbol E, that is emigration. Since they are decreasing the density, take the arrow away from the population density and give minus symbol. So the two factors which increase the population density, one is birth rate, other one is immigration. The two factors which decrease the population density, one is death rate, other one is emigration. If we have to tell the formula, then we tell N, population density at time t plus 1 is equal to Nt plus 1 is equal to, so Nt plus B plus I minus D plus E. So population density at time t plus 1 is equal to initial population density plus these two are the factors which increase the population density, and these two are the factors, death rate and emigration, which decrease the density. So this is a symbol, or this is the formula to calculate population growth. Take a screenshot, we'll continue. Then when we have to talk about the population growth models, there are two population growth models. So one population growth curve is called exponential, the other one is called geometric. There are two types of population growth models. One is called exponential growth curve, and the other one is called as logistic growth curve, right? So exponential growth model. So when is this possible? Exponential growth model. Exponential means multiplying. Geometrically they are increasing. So in exponential growth curve, the population keeps increasing or keeps multiplying in a geometric manner. So that's why we can also call exponential growth curve as geometric growth curve also we can call. So when it will be possible? When the resources are unlimited, then only we can see population is increasing steadily. So exponential growth curve occurs when the resources are unlimited. When the resources are unlimited, then exponential growth curve will happen. And if we have to show the diagram, so what should we take on x-axis and what should we take on y-axis? Time on x-axis we'll take, and population density on y-axis we'll take. Time on x-axis and population density on y-axis if you take. So for exponential growth curve, we see, since we are telling it's keeping on expanding since the resources are unlimited, so it shows a J-shaped curve. It shows a J-shaped curve. Exponential growth model shows a J-shaped curve, and it shows two phases. This initial phase is called lag phase, and then this phase is called log phase or exponential phase. This is called log phase or exponential phase. And if we have to give the formula for exponential growth rate, the formula will be dn by dt. Change in population density per change in time is equal to, it depends on, we know it depends on birth rate and death rate into initial density. dn by dt, change in density per change in time, is equal to birth rate minus death rate by natural population, natural density. So B and D, we can make it as a constant called R. So when you make B and D as R, the formula becomes dN by dt is equal to Rn. We have simplified the formula. dN by dt is equal to Rn is a formula for exponential growth rate or geometric growth rate, where R, what does it denotes? R denotes the intrinsic rate of natural increase. The population is keeping on increasing. So R denotes intrinsic rate of natural increase. R denotes the intrinsic rate of natural increase since the population is expanding. In NCERT, they have given the R values. They have given the R value for Norway rat, and they have given the R value for next one, floor beetle. They have given the R value for human according to 1981 census. So we have to remember the R values. The R value, what is the R value? Intrinsic rate of natural increase. For Norway rat, it is 0.015. The R value of Norway rat is 0.015. The R value of floor beetle is 0.12. And the R value of human is 0.0205 according to the 1981 census. And in NCERT they asked us what is the current R value. Current R value means according to the 2011 census, the human R value is 0.135. So this is the R value according to the 2001 census. This is the R value of humans 1981 census. This is the R value of floor beetle, and this is the R value of Norway rat. So this is a normal formula. When we apply integration, when we apply basic calculus for this formula, then what is that exponential growth curve formula? It goes with Nt is equal to N0 e power RT. So this formula we will get when you apply integration, when you apply basic calculus for this formula. Here Nt stands for population density at time t. This N0 stands for initial population density. E is the base logarithm, and R is a intrinsic rate of natural increase, and T is the time period. So this is another formula. Now this exponential growth curve keeps on multiplying. Even if you take a slowly reproducing animal like elephant, which reproduces, it takes 2 years to reproduce. Such a slow reproducing organisms also, so they can increase enormously if there is no checkpoints. If you provide all the resources, if there is no predator, even elephant can increase its population enormously. To tell the magnitude of exponential growth curve, the author has given us a story. In that they are telling the minister and the king are playing chess. The king asked, if you win, minister, what should I give you? Then the minister simply, he told, like, you just in the first chess square you just add 1 grain of rice, and then exponentially you add on, and how much rice you can give me at the 64th square, exponentially you just give me that much. So the king underestimated the exponential growth. He thought like he is asking me a small thing only. So unfortunately the king lost the chess and the minister won the race. And then here, when the king started, in the first square 64 squares are there. First square 1 grain, second square 2, third square 4th square 8, 16, 32. So like that, if you see, you have to increase 2 power 63. So it will become a huge value. So to just tell what is the magnitude of exponential growth, they have given this example of chessboard with minister and the king. Take a screenshot, then we'll talk about logistic growth curve. The next one is logistic growth curve model. Exponential we have seen, and exponential we are telling here the resources are unlimited. See, in nature resources are never unlimited. Resources are limited only. So that means exponential growth curve is for theoretical purpose only. It is for theoretical purpose only. Practically it is not possible because resources are limited only. That means logistic growth curve, it works where the resources are limited. This works where resources are unlimited. Here the resources should be unlimited. And here we told the resources are limited. The other name for exponential growth curve is geometric growth curve. The other name for logistic growth curve is VER. Logistic growth curve. Logistic growth curve. This is the other name. The formula for exponential growth curve is dn by dt is equal to Rn, or we can tell Nt is equal to N0 e power RT. The formula for logistic growth curve is the same formula, dn by dt is equal to Rn, but we add carrying capacity K minus N by K. So a new concept of carrying capacity came in logistic growth curve. Let us see what is meant by carrying capacity. If you give me these many books, yeah, I can carry. But if you give me these many books, I may not carry, they will fall down. So like that, the nature also has certain carrying capacity. Beyond that carrying capacity, if the population increases, here or there natural calamity will happen and the population will be kept under control. That's what is carrying capacity. Okay. So the formula for logistic growth curve is dn by dt Rn, which is the same formula, but we are adding carrying capacity. K minus N by K is a formula for logistic growth curve. So exponential growth curve gives us J-shaped curve. Logistic growth curve, if you see, it will give sigmoidal curve. It gives sigmoidal curve. So in logistic growth curve, we saw a J shape like this. In exponential, we saw J shape. In logistic, it is sigmoidal. So then there are three phases. The first phase is lag, the next phase is log, and the third phase is asymptom phase. The third phase is asymptom phase. Here in the exponential growth curve, there are only two phases. One is the lag phase, other one is the log phase. So in the J-shaped curve, there are only two phases. One phase is a lag phase and the other one is a log phase. Here there are three phases. What is the first phase? The first phase is lag. The second one is log. And third one is stationary phase or asymptom phase. Stationary phase or asymptom phase. So means here the population is not increasing, means it has reached its carrying capacity. This is what is called K, carrying capacity. When the carrying capacity is reached, there will not be further increase in population density, it keeps maintained. Here if you see, the log phase is very much steep, it is growing. So but here it's not that much peak. It grows slowly only, but it grows very fast here. And which is more realistic, the nature resources are limited, right? That means this is more realistic. Logistic growth curve is more a realistic curve. If you, in NCERT, they asked us collect the government census for Indian population. They asked us to collect the government census for Indian population for 100 years, and whatever values you are getting, if you plot, they are asking us what shape of graph we get. So we told this is more realistic, right? So if you collect and if you see also, we will get the sigmoidal growth curve only. That means human population also will follow logistic growth curve model only. So this is about population growth models. Take a screenshot, we'll continue. Next topic is life history variations. Organisms will combine to make a population. Now population will evolve to maximize their reproductive fitness. Now population, when it increases, then only we call this set of population is stable and it is fit in terms of reproductive fitness. Even Darwin also agrees with reproductive fitness. He tells about the survival of the fittest, right? Means the organism which can survive more, means it is reproducing more. Now under a particular set of selection pressures. Selection pressures means biotic pressures and abiotic pressures. Organisms will evolve a strategy, will evolve a reproductive strategy towards its maximum fitness. Means if the organism is born there and it is living there to that constraints, what is the best strategy, it will evolve and then it shows better reproductive fitness. If you take some examples, like some organisms breed only once in lifetime. There are organisms which breed only once in lifetime. lifetime. So what are that type of organisms called? They're called semiparous organisms. Example for semiparous organisms in NCERT book, they have given Pacific salmon fish and bamboo. They breed once in their lifetime, they produce progeny and then they die. That organisms are called semiparous. On the other hand, if you see, there are organisms which breed many times in their life. Now then, what are those organisms called? Heteroparous organisms. Example for heteroparous organisms, birds and mammals. Like we reproduce many times, we give birth to many offsprings, right? So that means we come under heteroparous, means where we breed many times and where we give birth to many progeny. On the other side, semiparous organisms. Now if you talk about the number of organisms after one breeding, now some organisms produce large number of offsprings, but each offspring will be small in size. So what are those organisms called? Same, Pacific salmon fish and bamboo, if you take, since they have an ability to breed only once in their lifetime, so in that one time breeding it tries to produce as many progeny as possible. Since it has to produce as many progeny as possible, the size of the progeny, the size of the offspring will be small. We can take the example of oysters and pelagic fish. Pelagic fish, in one reproduction it produces hundreds of daughter fishes. On the other hand, if you take the other organisms which can breed many times in their life, since they have the ability to breed many times in their life, in each breeding they produce only less number of offsprings. Since they are producing less number of offsprings, the size of the offsprings will be big in size. Example, mammals and birds we can take. So these are certain life history traits we are telling. Now when I talk about semiparous and heteroparous, which organisms are better suited? Come on, tell me. At one stretch reading so many chapters is better, or one chapter reading perfectly is better? Now ask yourself and get the answer. If you ask me, I will tell, instead of reading one chapter little bit, if you read one chapter thoroughly, completely, perfectly, so that is more important, right? In the same manner here also, which organisms are more beneficial means heteroparous organisms are more beneficial, means they produce less number of offsprings only, and those offsprings will be big in size and they can adapt. So which one is desirable for maximum fitness means less number of organisms with bigger size are fit for maximum evolution. So ecologists suggest that the life history traits of an organism have evolved in relation to the biotic and abiotic pressures. Biotic pressures means populations, organisms, community pressure. Abiotic pressure means water pressure, light pressure, soil pressure, all these things. Non-living pressures are called abiotic pressures and living interactions are called as biotic pressures. And evolution of life history traits in different species as an important area of research for the ecologists. All this information is there in the topic called life history variations. After that, when we have to talk about two different types of species, R selected species and K selected species, even though this information is not there in NCERT, in one's NEET examination, in 1 year NEET examination, they have asked this. So I have summarized it and kept on the board. We will see this and then we will go to population interactions. Now, who has developed the concept of R selected species and K selected species means Robert Arthur and Edward Wilson. Robert Arthur and Edward Wilson has popularized the concept of R selected species and K selected species. R stands for reproductive selected species. K stands for, so when we talk about logistic growth model, there we use K, carrying capacity. So K stands for that species which shows carrying capacity, which grows only till carrying capacity. R selected species are called reproductive selected species. K selected species means this population gets stabilized when it reaches the carrying capacity, the maximum capacity. Now R selected species, since they are reproductively selected species, so they reproduce more, means they produce more number of offsprings. So they are semiparous. They breed only once in their lifetime, and in that one breeding they produce as many offsprings as possible. They reproduce once in lifetime, that's why they're called semiparous, and in that one breeding they produce many number of offsprings of which size? Of small size. Since many number of offsprings are produced, parental care cannot be there. So no parental care. Since parental care is not there, their lifespan will be short and they will grow, they'll try to grow as maximum as possible. Now coming here, if we talk about K selected species. If these are semiparous organisms, then there will be heteroparous organisms. Heteroparous organisms which can breed many times in their life, and they produce less number of offsprings of big size. So these are heteroparous organisms, means they reproduce many times in their life and they produce less number of offsprings only, but of bigger size. Since less number of offsprings are there, parental care we can expect. So parental care will be there. Since parental care is there, lifespan also will be more. Now here if you see, intrinsic rate of natural increase is high. Since the number is more, R value, intrinsic rate of natural increase also will be high. Since the number is less, intrinsic rate of natural increase will be obviously less. Next point, density independent, do not depend upon the biotic and abiotic factors. See, if it is density dependent, they'll try to produce to certain extent, after that they will stop. But here there's no such concept, because they're producing more in number. That means they're density independent. They don't depend on the factors. But here it is not the case. They are produced in less number only, means they're density dependent. They're density dependent. Next one, they are opportunistic. These are competitors. They are opportunistic. Since they are opportunistic, they don't compete among themselves, so the competition will be weak here. Since they are competitors, so the adjacent species compete among themselves, competition will be strong here. But here if you see, since the many number of offsprings are produced, what happens? Parental care will not be there. Mortality rate will be high. Death rate will be high. If death rate is high, then the survivability is obviously poor. Then the population size, since many organisms are dying, the population size cannot be constant, it will be variable only. And the habitat in which they are living, so new ones are adding and the old ones are dying, it's a disturbed type of population. And if you have to give examples for our selected species, small plants, weeds, insects and bacteria. So, and insects are the organisms which show greater number of diversity. So many insects will be there, but their lifespan also will be less only. And bacteria also, constantly bacteria are dying and new bacteria are being added. Weeds also, small plants also, they will grow much in number, but they can't grow, flourish like bigger trees and all. So all this is the information about R selected species. Coming to K selected species, we are telling they are competitors. Since they are competitors, competition will be high. Since competition is high, we will tell mortality rate will be poor and survivability will be high. And here the population size is fairly constant. Population size will be constant only. Why? Because mortality is poor, death rate is poor, population will be constant only. And when we talk about the habitat will be constant habitat only, because it's not disturbed like this. The mortality rate is high and the population size is maintained. Examples, here we wrote small plants, here we'll write big trees, and here we wrote large mammals and some parrots and all. Parrot lifespan is very high, so it has a stable population. Here we wrote bacteria, insects and weeds whose lifespan is small. So this is a concept of R selected species and K selected species, popularized by scientists called Robert Arthur and Edward Wilson. It is not there in your NCERT textbook. Take a screenshot. Then we will talk about population interactions. Next topic is population interactions. We can classify population interactions under different types. So I have taken them on the board. Let us discuss. Now population means group of organisms will constitute a population. Now population, when it is interacting within the same population, what is that called? And if one population is interacting with another population, what is it called? If the population interactions are within, if I'm interacting with you, means a man is interacting with a man. Such interactions means if interactions are within, then that is called intra-species interactions. But if the population, if I'm interacting with a plant, means plant community and animal community, means if we are interacting with another community, then that comes under interspecies interactions. So this is one type of interactions. Interaction within is called intraspecies. Interaction with the other community is called interspecies interactions. This is one type. Coming to the other type, basing on what effect they are getting, whether they are beneficial interactions or harmful interactions or neutral interactions. It's a second way of talking about interactions. Population interactions, some interactions can be beneficial, so the population gets benefited. Some interactions can be harmful, means the population size decreases, density decreases. Neutral means the interaction has happened but it did not lead to increase in the size or decrease in the size, then we call it as neutral interactions. This is the other way of classifying population interactions. The third type of classification classifying population interactions are positive interactions and negative interactions. Positive interactions means, see here, in population interactions, two species are interacting, species A and species B. Now among these two species, if at least one species or both the species are benefited, that is positive interaction. Now in negative interaction, among two species, if at least one species is harmed, then that is called negative interaction. In positive interaction, either one species or both the species can get benefited. In negative interactions, at least one species should be harmed, that is called negative interactions. So in NCERT they have given 6 population interactions. All the 6 population interactions can be categorized, 2 under positive, 4 under negative. The 2 which comes under positive interaction is mutualism and commensalism. Mutualism, symbiosis. In symbiosis, plant and rhizobium, if you take, the bacteria is also benefited, the plant is also benefited. Lichens, if we take, algae is also benefited, fungi is also benefited. So like that, if we go with mutualism, both the species are getting benefited. Since both the species are getting benefited, it comes under positive interaction. Coming to commensalism, in commensalism only one species is harmed, one species is benefited, for the other species no harm is happened, means it is neutral. For neutral we'll give 0. For harmful, we'll use a symbol minus. For beneficial, we'll use a symbol plus. If one species is benefited and for the other species, if it is neutral, it comes under commensalism. Coming to negative interactions, under negative interaction, there are 4 examples. One is predation. Predation, like if lion eats another animal, the other animal is harmed, and for lion it is benefit, it is filling its hunger, right? So for lion it is plus, and for the animal which is being killed, it is harmed minus. Parasitism. Now parasite comes onto the host, it damages the host, and parasite multiplies, it eats and it produces its progeny. Means for parasite it is plus, but for host it is minus. And Amensatism, in Amensatism, now one species is harmed, but for the other species the interaction is neutral, means it's neither benefited nor harmed. The last one is competition. Competition among both the species, like if 2 animals are there and if they're fighting for a loaf of bread, either this will get now, not this will get, so that is called competition. In competition, both the species are harmed. Both the species are harmed. Competition, only one species is harmed, Amensatism, and the other one is neutral. One species is harmed, the other one is beneficial, that is parasitism and predation. Now in NCERT, before starting this interaction, they have mentioned one important point also, that they are telling, like one is commensalism, the other one is parasitism and predation. Predation, parasitism and commensalism share a common characteristic. What is that common characteristic? That these 3 interactions share means the species which are interacting, they live close to each other. If parasite should damage the host, means it should get into the host, right? It should be an ectoparasite or endoparasite. So we understood that in parasitism, the parasite and the host should live close to each other. In the same manner, in predation also, if lion is eating the goat or if lion is eating the rabbit, means they are in the same forest, right? So that is also positive interaction, they are close to each other. In commensalism also, we'll see the example, like cattle, ergot we can take, like cattle we can take, and the bird. Now when the cattle is eating the grass, along with that the egret also goes. So when the cattle is eating the grass, insects will come up, and that insects are eaten by that bird, right? So means along with the goat or along with the cow, this bird also goes to catch the things. So commensalism, parasitism and predation share a common characteristics. What is that common characteristic? That the interacting species should live close to each other. Take a screenshot, then we will talk about one by one interaction in detail. The first interaction comes as predation. Take a screenshot fast. Yes. Now when we talk about the interactions, the first interaction is predation. It is very important in terms of Neet. The predation interaction is very important concept in terms of Neet. What is predation? There is a big animal which is called as predator. That predator is ferocious and it kills the other animals. The animal which is being killed is called as prey. Predator, it captures the prey, it kills the prey and it eats the prey. So that is called as predation. Let us write down the first interaction. What we are talking about is predation. In predation, one organism, okay, which kills is called as predator. The predator, it kills and it eats another species. Now this another species which is being killed off, which is being eaten off, is called as prey. That means for prey it is minus because it is losing its life. For predator, since it is filling its hunger, it is positive. So we told in predation, plus and minus means the predator captures, kills and eats the prey population. Now the examples what we think about predation means lion eating other small animals. Now don't think like only killing comes under predation. Now if you take cow or goat, now if they are grazing on plants, you know, cow and goat and buffalo, if they are grazing on plants, this is also an example of predation. Now here this example comes under carnivorous predation. This example comes under herbivorous predation. That means predators are two types: carnivorous predators which feed on flesh, herbivorous predators which feeds on plants. So this can be an example of carnivorous predation. And this is an example of herbivorous predation. Now, if we have to give some examples of carnivorous predators, what are the examples of carnivorous predators? We can go with the lion, tiger, wolf. So lion, tiger, wolf, snake, all these are examples of carnivorous predators. Then if we have to talk examples for herbivorous predators, now the examples of herbivorous predators are, we took cows, goat, okay, and sparrow. Now sparrow, it is omnivorous. Sparrow, when it is eating seeds, then it is herbivorous predator. If the sparrow is eating the insects, then it comes under carnivorous predator. There are insectivorous plants also, right? Plants also comes under carnivorous predators. So if we have to list about insectivorous plants, what are the examples of insectivorous plants which are carnivorous only? Examples are Nepenthes, pitcher plant. Then Drosera, Dionia, Utricularia. All these are examples of insectivorous plants. They also capture the insect and they eat. Since they are capturing the insect and they are eating, they come under carnivorous only. So these are some examples of predation. Now when we have to list down the functions of predation, so what are the functions we can list down? First we will tell that predation is a natural way of transferring energy from one trophic level to the other trophic level. So the energy which is trapped at one trophic level, now only when the predator comes and eats this, it goes to the next trophic level, and only when the predator comes and eats this, it goes to the next trophic level. So the first and foremost function number one of predator is, we can tell predation is a natural way of transferring energy to the higher trophic levels. So predation is a natural way of transferring energy to higher trophic levels. Means we can tell in simple manner, in simple sentence, we can tell that predation acts as conducts of energy transfer. Predation acts as conducts of energy transfer. If predation concept is not there, then the energy as that particular level will be at that level only. It will be wasted off. It cannot be transferred to the next level. This is one example. Now when we have to talk about the next function, when we have to talk about the next function like predation, how it is useful in nature, means we can tell that like predators keep the prey population under check. Predators, they eat the prey population and they keep the prey population under check. In absence of predator, now prey populations will increase in size. So if lion is not there, then what happens? Goat or rabbits will increase in number. So they compete among themselves. Minus and minus for them, it leads to ecosystem instability. So we can tell that predator keeps the prey population under check. Predator keeps prey population under check. Predator keeps the prey population under check, and in the absence of the predator, what happened? Prey population will increase and it leads to ecosystem instability. In absence of predator, if predator is not there, then because predator is not eating, prey population will increase. If in the absence of the predator, prey species will increase. Since they are increasing, competition among them will increase. Since competition is increasing among them, it leads to ecosystem instability. It leads to ecosystem instability. So for this we can take an example also, and we can tell this is a correct thing. So how can you explain, how can you justify this statement? Means if exotic species are introduced in a new area, from somewhere we brought and we have introduced a plant in a new area. For example, you can take in 1920s in Australia, they have introduced prickly pear cactus plant. This cactus plant, they brought it from somewhere and they have introduced in 1920 in Australia. And what that plant has done, what that cactus plant has done means it has spread millions of hectares and it has damaged the local plants there. Now how can it multiply that fast? Means because its predator is not there. So then it became a problematic weed for these people. And how did they get rid of over this cactus plant? Means again they went back to that area and they brought the moth which eats the cactus, which is called Cactoblastaris cactalis. When they brought this moth called Cactoblastaris cactorum and they introduced it in Australia, then it started eating the cactus plant. Then the cactus plant population was kept under control. Means here the predator is a moth. If moth is not there, the prey population, means the plant population is increasing and it is killing the local population, local plants there, and it is causing instability to the ecosystem. So with this we can justify that predator keeps the prey population under check. We are telling in 1920s in Australia, they have introduced prickly pear cactus plant. This cactus plant which was introduced is an exotic species. It was introduced, it spread millions of hectares and it damaged the local plants there. Why it is spreading very fast and massively? Because its predator is not there and it became problematic weed for the people over there. Now how could they control this? So they brought its predator and introduced it. So to control this prickly pear cactus, finally they brought a moth which is predator. What is the name of the moth? Cactoblastum cactorum. Cactoblastum cactorum, when they introduced again into the Australia, then it started eating the cactus plant and then the cactus plant came to control. Take a screenshot, we will continue. Yes, when we have to list down the other functions of this predation, we can tell predator reduce the intensity. It reduces the intensity of competition among the prey population. Means predator maintains species diversity. What is the first function we wrote for predation? So the first interaction what we are discussing is predation. Now what is the first point we told? Predators act as conducts of energy transfer. And second point we told, like predators control the prey population. And when we have to discuss about the next function of predators, we are telling that predators maintain species diversity in a community by reducing the intensity of competition among the prey species. Predators maintain species diversity in a community by reducing the intensity of competition among the prey species. By reducing the intensity of competition among the prey species. Now, if predator is there, predator eats upon the prey. When the prey is eaten off, then what happens? This prey is not there to fight with the other prey, right? So then there is no competition among the prey species. When there's no competition among the prey species and this prey is being eaten off, then there's a scope or place for the new prey to establish, for the new prey to evolve. That's what we wrote here. Predation maintains species diversity. It maintains the species diversity by reducing the competition among the prey species. For that also we can take an example and we can justify this. So in a field experiment, what they have done in the rocky intercoastal areas of American Pacific land, from the American Pacific coast, what they have done is, for a field experiment, they have removed the predator which is called starfish, piaster. So for a field experiment from the American Pacific coast, they have removed starfish. Now what is starfish? Starfish is a predator. It eats the insects. In a field experiment, when they have removed the starfish predator, now what happened? Over 1 year, in 1 year of span, 10 different invertebrate species became extinct. What happened? So when they have removed the predator, now the prey will be more. When the prey is more, then they compete among themselves, they fight among themselves, which will lead to extinction of themselves, because competition means minus and minus only. So when you remove the predator, what happens? Prey start fighting among themselves. Prey population increases, then for the same food they start competing among themselves. Then in 1 year, what happened means 10 different invertebrate species became extinct. So by basing on this point, we can tell that predator maintains the species diversity by reducing the competition among the prey species. Now, fourth function, if we have to discuss, predators act as biological controls in agriculture. They act as biological control methods in agriculture. Now, the agricultural crops are damaged by gescids, aphids, bollworm, all these worms and all. Now, if we have to control such type of worms and insects, gescids and aphids, means we can introduce the predators which will eat them off instead of buying pesticide, insecticide, wasting our money, damaging the ecosystem and all, and causing damage to the crop also. So what we can do is we can just introduce a predator which will eat off those things and the prey population will get eliminated. Like if you introduce dragonfly, ladybird, these are predators for gescids and aphids. It comes under biological control methods. Okay, biological control methods in agriculture, the principle is based on predation only. For example, if we want to control gescids, aphids, caterpillar, now what can we do? We can just introduce the predator. The predators are like ladybirds, dragonfly. These are the predators. So this is one more point under importance of predation. Then we can tell predators are prudent. Predators are prudent. What do you mean by prudent? It means predators think about their future. So they are not too efficient. They are not too grazing. Now, for example, if you buy a packet of chocolates and every 1 minute you are eating one chocolate, every 1 minute you are eating one chocolate, what happens? In half an hour, all your chocolates will get finished. For next day, you'll not have any chocolate to eat. In the same manner, like in a forest, if the lion comes every day, if it is eating one rabbit, what happens? After one point of time, prey will not be there. So prey became extinct because lion has eaten all those prey. Now then what happens? One fine day, predator also has to become extinct because it will die of hunger. So that is why predators know about their future. They are prudent, means they are cautious. They are not over efficient, means once they kill, they capture a prey, and if they are eating that flesh, means lion after killing an animal, when it fills its stomach, it goes back to the den, and at least for 1 week it will not come out and hunt. Means in 1 week it's catching only one animal. So means the population is maintained, means the prey population will not become extinct. So here we can tell predators are prudent. They are not too efficient. If they are too efficient, prey population will become extinct. If prey population will become extinct, now predator also should become extinct because of hunger, right? Take a screenshot. We will continue. 10 minutes on there. Now the prey is being killed by the predator. Now prey will evolve certain mechanisms to hide from the predator, right? Preys are also smart, so they will evolve some mechanisms to hide from the predator. So we'll write those mechanisms. Now prey species evolve mechanisms to hide from the predator. For example, if you take frogs, right, what do they show? Frogs, they show camouflage, means they cryptically change their color, right? So we can tell frogs and insects, they show camouflage, means cryptically they change their color, they make their color similar to the outside ground, so that the predator cannot identify it and it cannot kill it. Another example, we can take monarch butterfly. This is a beautiful example. Monarch butterfly. Now the larval stage of butterfly is caterpillar, right? Now in the larval stage, the monarch butterfly, in the larval stage, it ate a poisonous glycoside. It ate a poisonous weed. Monarch butterfly, in its larval stage, in the caterpillar stage, it fed on a poisonous weed. Because that poisonous weed is there, so later when it becomes a young one butterfly, now this butterfly is distasteful. Is distasteful to the predator bird. Now birds don't want to eat the monarch butterfly as their meal. Why? Because that distastefulness is there. So this is a mechanism what the prey has evolved to survive from the predator, called the birds. Okay, some predators, they do camouflage, they change their color, they cryptically change the color to the surrounding environment. And the second one is the predators, they will feed in their larval stages on poisonous weeds so that the predator will not eat it. Another thing, if we tell, plants are more affected by predation or animals are more affected by predation. So if you think plants cannot move, if the predator is coming, plant cannot move, so that means plants are only worstly affected by predation when compared to animals, because they cannot move. And plants are eaten by insects, right? We tell that 25% of insects, they feed on plants, means they are phytophagous. 25% of insects are phytophagous, means they feed on plants. Now then the plants should evolve certain mechanisms to avoid predation, right? What are the mechanisms the plants will avoid, will show, means the plant adaptations are, let us discuss. Plants show morphological adaptations and chemical adaptations. They show morphological adaptations and they show chemical adaptations. Now what are morphological adaptations? Having thorns, Now, where can you find thorns? In acacia, we can find thorns, Australian acacia, and in bougainvillea, we can find thorns. In cactus plants, we find thorns. Now, this having thorns is a morphological mechanism, so predator will not eat it because in predators it will poke. Now, coming to chemical adaptations, what are the chemicals which are released by the plants which are not agreed by the predator? Means we can take a beautiful example, Calotropis. Now, this is a plant. Calotropis will produce a white colored cardiac glycoside. It produces a poisonous glycoside. Calotropis plant, it produces white poison. What is it called? Cardiac glycoside. So immediately damages the circulatory system and then the predator will die off. So that's why animals will not graze on Calotropis plant because it is having a chemical poison with it. And acacia and cactus plants are also not eaten by cow, goat. Why? Because thorns are there. So other some examples also we can tell. For example, nicotine is a chemical present in tobacco plant. The nicotine, which is a chemical which is produced in tobacco plant, what is it? It is a stimulant, right? Why did the tobacco plant produce nicotine? Means because this nicotine, if it is there, predator will not like it. One more example, we can take caffeine, which is present in tea and coffee. Caffeine is also a stimulant. Plant is producing all these things as defense mechanisms to avoid from predation, and we are using them for our commercial purposes. In the same manner, opium from poppy plant, it is a depressant. The plant is producing it to avoid from the predation. Then next one, quinine. Quinine is extracted from cinchona plant. Quinine is extracted from Cinchona officinarum. Quinine is a malarial drug. It is malarial drug. It's used in malarial treatment. Why did the Cinchona officinarum plant produce this quinine? To escape from the predator, and we are using it as antibiotic properties. We are using it in malarial treatment. And another examples also we can take strychnine. Now, what is this? This is poison produced by a plant called Nox vomita. Strychnine is a poison produced by Nox vomita. Now, what is strychnine? Is a poison. Now, because of presence of all these chemicals, plants or predators will not eat them. So, this is about predation. If we have to just summarize our predation, we told for one species it is positive and for other species it is negative. For predator it is positive and for the prey it is negative. And the functions of predation, we told predators are natural ways of conducting energy to next trophic levels. And the next thing we told, predators will keep the prey population under check. Next we told predators, they help in maintaining the species diversity. Then we told predation is a mechanism of biological control. Then we told like predators are prudent, they are not too aggressive, they don't eat too much, if not they'll become extinct one day. Then we talked about plants are more affected by predation when compared to animals. 25% of the insects are phytophagous. That's why plants will show certain mechanisms, they release certain chemicals to avoid predation. So what are the chemicals? We wrote here, Calotropis will release a cardiac glycoside, nicotine by tobacco plant, caffeine by tea and coffee plants, opium by opium poppy plant, and quinine from Cinchona officinarum, and strychnine, which is a poison which is released by Nox vomita. All these are the examples. Take a screenshot. Then we'll talk about the second interaction, competition. The second type of population interaction is competition. In competition, both the species are being harmed. In our childhood, we studied about a story that two dogs found a piece of bread and both of them are fighting that I found it first. This is telling I found it first. In between, a monkey came and he told, I'll resolve your issue. I will divide into two pieces and I'll give half to you and half to you. So now purposefully the monkey will do one bigger piece and one smaller piece for the bread, and she will tell like, oh, this piece became bigger, let me make it small. She will eat a little bit from this one. Again, this one becomes bigger. She will eat again this one. So like that, what she will do is she'll finish off all the bread for herself. That means in competition, then what happens? The third man is benefited. These two species are being harmed. That is competition. Now there are two types of competition. The competition among themselves means intra-specific competition. The competition between two different species, interspecific competition, which is more, means interspecific competition is only more, and Darwin is also convinced with interspecific competition only. NCERT says that Darwin is convinced with interspecific competition. Interspecific competition means competition among two different species is a potent force for organic evolution, is a potent force for new organisms to get evolved. This is what Darwin told. Now the features or the functions of competition are, the first function of competition is for limited resources. Now the organisms, they compete for the limited resources. So for example, we have taken that bread piece. Two dogs are competing because only one bread piece is there. If there are two bread pieces, one dog will take one bread and the other dog will take another bread. So here they're telling competition might be because of limited resources. The example in NCERT they have given is in shallow South American lakes. In shallow South American lakes, two different organisms, flamingos will visit and the resident fishes will be there. The resident fishes and visiting flamingos, for both of them the food is a common one, which is zooplankton. So zooplanktons are less in number, flamingos and the resident fishes are more in number. For this food they are competing. So that is one point. Next one, it need not be always limited. Resources need not be always limited. So there can be interference competition also. There can be interference competition also. Now, if I am teaching for one student, my focus will be completely on that student. If the other person is also coming, that means my this thing is being interfered with that person and with this person. In the same manner, in interference competition, what happens is the feeding efficiency of one species will reduce the other species. The feeding efficiency of one species is reduced due to overgrazing efficiency of the other species. In the starting of the competition, I showed you the pictures. So with that pictures, you can understand and you can remember it for more times. For that reason only, I took all the pictures and I've kept it on the board. Just watch once again. So there we draw the picture of visiting flamingo, resident fishes and zooplanktons we draw. And we draw about this example also, abundant tortoise and goats. If goats are introduced into an island, goats, they don't sit at one place. They constantly keeps on moving and they overgraze on the grass. So goats, since they are moving very fast in the Galapagos Island, what happened? The tortoise, which is a slow moving animal, is having the fear that if I step out, then the goat will step on me and it will be painful for me. So because of the overgrazing efficiency of the goats, tortoise became extinct. So the fitness of one species will lower the presence of the other species. Example, justification for this statement is abundant tortoise in Galapagos Island became extinct. The tortoise became extinct within a decade after introducing goats. Goats are eating grass and tortoise is eating the other thing. But means their food is different. But why did tortoise become extinct? Because of the over moving of the goats, they are telling. So this is the second one. The third one is competitive release. Competitive release means if the superior one is there, then the inferior one will hide at one corner. It is not able to establish or flourish to more areas. In a field experiment, Connell has done this. He removed the superior one, then he could see that inferior one came out and it over established. So that comes under competitive release. A species whose distribution is restricted, the inferior one distribution is restricted. Why? Because of the superior one. So the Connell's elegant experiment, in an experiment, Connell's field elegant experiment in the rocky sea coast areas of Scotland, when the superior barnacle called Belanus was removed, then the inferior barnacle called Catalamus has overspread. So this is a third point about competition. The first point about competition, we told competition is because of limited resources. So we have to remember the example of the dog and one piece of of bread. The second one, they're telling resources need not be limited always. It could be competition could be because of interference also. Interference competition, here we are telling the goats have interfered with the movement of tortoise. The third example is competitive release. The inferior one is not releasing itself because of the presence of the superior one. If you remove the superior one, inferior one will over establish. Who did this experiment? Connell's field experiment. He did it in the rocky sea coast of Scotland. When he removed the superior barnacle called Belanus, the inferior barnacle called Catalamus have over established. Next point, Gauss's competitive exclusion law we can tell, or Gauss's competition exclusion principle also we can tell. This states that Gauss will tell that two closely related species cannot coexist together in a same place. Cannot coexist together in the same place, and the competitive superior one will eliminate the inferior one. Gauss has observed that two organisms which are competing for the same food, they will not stick at one place. One will be dominating superior one, and that kills upon the other one, inferior one. But then this is not always true. Gauss's principle is not always true, because they found out another concept called resource partitioning. What is meant by resource partitioning? A scientist called Mark Arthur, he is a zoologist. He observed 5 closely related warblers birds. He saw that these warblers birds are living on the same tree, but they changed their behavioral patterns for foraging to exist together. If all the 5 birds are eating the same insect, then only one bird can catch the insect, 4 birds has to die. So that's why they started partitioning themselves. They started doing behavioral things on foraging patterns so that all 5 can live together. So this is opposite to Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. It states that the 5 different birds have changed their behavioral patterns of foraging. Now one bird will tell, I'll catch the insects on the top. The other means it is sitting on the top of the tree. The other bird will tell, I'll be at the base of the tree and I'll be catching the insects which are at the bottom level on the soil level. Now the third bird will tell, I'll catch the insects which are coming in between. The fourth one will tell, I'll eat only fruits. I changed my eating habit, I'll eat only fruits. Like that, all these 5 birds are living on the same tree, but they avoided competition by doing resource partitioning, changes in their foraging pattern. One bird will tell, I'll catch the insects in the early morning, dawn time. The other one will tell, I'll catch the insects in the dusk time, means sunset. I'll catch at top level, I'll catch at bottom level, I'll catch at middle level. I have converted from insect eating habit to fruit eating habit. Like that, they existed together. So all this is information about competition. Take a screenshot. We'll talk about the third population interaction, which is parasitism. Yes. Now the third interaction is parasitism. For predation we told plus and minus. For competition we wrote here minus and minus. Now for parasitism, parasite which cannot live independent life, it depends on the host, and it makes the host vulnerable for diseases. It makes the host sensitive to the diseases because it is eating off the food of the host. The host will become sensitized, the host will become weak, and they are susceptible for diseases. So this concept is called as parasitism. So we finished competition and predation. The third one is parasitism. Now if you have to give symbols, parasite is benefited because it is getting the food, and the host is harmed because the host food only parasite is eating. Now this word parasite or parasitism came from a Greek word. So parasite means eating in others' plate. Parasite means at the side of food, means it is eating the food from the side plate. From this Greek word, the word parasite came. Now how many types of parasites, if you see, coming to the concept, types of parasites. First one, we can classify them into different types: ectoparasites, endoparasites. Let us see one by one. What is meant by ectoparasite? If the parasite is on the surface of the host, that is called ectoparasite. Example for ectoparasite: ticks on the dog, okay, and bed bugs and all. So these are the example. And what is that? Lice inside the hair. All these are examples of ectoparasites. Ectoparasite example: ticks on dog, lice in hair. These are the examples of ectoparasites, means they are on the surface. Next one is endoparasite. Now, what do you mean by endoparasite? Which stays inside the host. If it gets into the host, then that is called endoparasite. And if we have to see examples for endoparasite, now it went into the host. Is it living in the cell, or is it living in the tissue, or is it living in the cavity? Like that, we can divide endoparasites into cytozoic, histozoic and coelozoic. We can divide the endoparasites into three types. If it is residing in the cell, what is it called? Cryptozoic. And if it is residing in the tissue, what is it called? Histozoic. If it is residing in the coelom, what is it called? Coelozoic. Now, if we have to give examples for the parasite which is living inside the cell, Plasmodium lives inside the RBC cell, right? So, malarial parasite. And if it has to live inside the tissue, we can take Wuchereria as an example, which lives in the lymphoid tissue. Example here is Wuchereria. If it is living in the coelom, open cavities, we can take Ascaris as an example, which lives in the coelom. So we are dividing parasites into ectoparasites and endoparasites. Ectoparasites means which are on the surface of the host. Endoparasites means which are inside. If it is inside the cell, it is called cryptozoic. If it is inside the tissue, it is called histozoic. If it is inside the cavities, it is called coelozoic. So these are the examples. We can also call parasites as monogenetic parasites and digenetic parasites. Now, what do you mean by monogenetic parasite? If the parasite is having only one host to complete its life cycle, that is called monogenetic parasite. Monogenetic parasite means only one host. Example, we can go Ascaris. Man is the host. Now, digenetic parasite means it has two hosts. So, one will be the primary host, the second one will be the secondary host. Examples, we can go Plasmodium and Wuchereria. In Plasmodium and Wuchereria, man and mosquito are the hosts. Digenetic parasite which completes its life cycle in two hosts. Example, we can take Plasmodium and Wuchereria, which causes filarial fever. So these are examples of digenetic parasites. Then, for how much time it is residing on the host? If it is completely residing on the host throughout the life cycle, permanent parasite. If it is residing for only small time, then it is called as temporary parasite. So we can also call them as permanent parasites and temporary parasites. Permanent parasites means which are permanently with the host. Example for permanent parasite is again Ascaris. Completely, it will complete its life cycle in host only. Example is Ascaris. And temporary parasite, if you go, like leech, you can take only for a particular time, it will suck the blood and it will go. So leech is an example for temporary parasites. We can also divide parasites into holoparasites. Holoparasites means complete parasites. Holoparasites. Holoparasites means they are called complete parasites. Don't think only insects are parasites or bacteria are parasites. Plants are also parasites. For this complete parasite, we'll take the example of this thing, plant. So we have two here. Complete root parasite we have and complete stem parasite we have. Now, what do you mean by complete root parasite? Complete root parasite means the example of complete root parasite is Rafflesia. Now, Rafflesia plant is parasite on the host completely for food and water. And which part of the host is attached to? It is attached to the root. That is why it's called complete root parasite. So, complete root parasite means the parasitic plant is depending on the host completely for the food also, for the water also. And to which part it is attached? To the root it is attached. So, that's why it's called complete root parasite. Example is biggest flower, Rafflesia. Now, complete stem parasite example is Cuscuta. It is complete parasite. Means Cuscuta plant is a parasite. It is completely depending on food and water on the host plant. But where it is attaching to the host, it is attaching to the stem. That's why it is called complete stem parasite. Now, like complete, we have incomplete parasites also then. We have incomplete parasites also. Again, under incomplete parasites, we have incomplete stem parasite and incomplete root parasite we have. Like the way we have here. Here also we have incomplete root parasite and incomplete stem parasite. So, incomplete root parasite example, Xanthalum, sandalwood tree. And incomplete stem parasite example, Viscum and Loranthus. So, incomplete, the word itself is telling the parasite is not completely dependent on the host, means either for water or for food. Only for one component is depending on the host. That is why we should call them as incomplete hemiparasites. Now, if it is staying on the stem of the host, that's called stem parasite. Example, Viscum. If it is staying on the root of the host, that's called root parasite. Incomplete root parasite children, example, Xanthalum. Incomplete stem parasite example, Viscum. Complete root parasite example, Rafflesia, the biggest flower. Okay, complete stem parasite example, Cuscuta. So these are different types of parasites. There's one interesting concept which is called as brood parasitism. So there's another concept called brood parasitism. In brood parasitism, we can take the example of crow and quail. We are taking the example of crow and quail. Both are black colored, both are of the same size. Now, crow is a good mother. It will incubate its eggs and it hatches and the young ones will come out. But quail is a lazy mother. It will lay the eggs but it don't want to incubate the eggs. So that's why quail will lay the eggs, and since it don't want to incubate, it comes and keeps the eggs inside the crow's nest. Now the crow has already laid 3 eggs inside the nest. Now if the quail is keeping the 4th egg, the mother crow can identify my eggs are only 3. How come 4 eggs are there? So that's why the quail is smart here. What it will do? It will throw one crow's egg. In that place it will keep its egg. So the crow, which is not intellectual, so it can't identify it because it is of the same thing. It sits on that and it incubates. The young ones also will hatch and they will come out. The mother is not able to identify whether it is a daughter crow or it's a daughter quail. But the daughter quail can identify crow is not my mother. So before the mother identifies me, I have to go off. So when the crow comes and gives the food, the daughter quail is the first one to take the food because it wants to get energy, it wants to fly off, it wants to give strength to its wings and it wants to fly off first. So then it will feed first, it will eat fast, it will become strengthened first and it flews off from the nest before the mother crow identifies it. So this concept is called brood parasitism. In brood parasitism, the examples are crow and quail. Cuckoo we can tell. Crow is a good mother, it will lay its eggs and it will incubate the eggs also, but cuckoo or quail can lay the eggs only, it cannot incubate. That's why it comes and lays the eggs in the crow's nest, and so that the crow should not identify, it will throw off the crow's eggs and it will keep its eggs. So the crow, which is innocent, will incubate the eggs and the young ones will come, and this crow mother is not able to identify whether it is daughter crows or daughter quail, it not identify, but the daughter one can identify this is not my mother, so it will feed fast and it will run away before the mother identifies. So all this is about parasitism. We talked what is parasite, from which word it is derived, and how many types of parasites are there, and then what is brood parasitism also we have discussed. Now parasites are specific for their hosts. Means root parasite, Rafflesia, will fix a host to that host only, it will try to go and stay. Now parasites are specific towards the host, and host will show certain adaptations to avoid the parasite because host is getting harmed. That is why host will show certain adaptations so that parasite will be away from it. So when the host is evolving, then the parasite also should co-evolve. If the parasite is not co-evolving, then the parasite cannot catch the host. That's why the parasite also co-evolves with it. So we'll see, take a screenshot, we will discuss about the parasitic adaptations. What are the adaptations parasites will show so that they can stay back in the host's body. So let's discuss parasitic adaptations. Now, under parasitic adaptations, we can tell if they are endoparasites, if they are within the body, if they are hiding inside the body of the host, then they don't need any sense organs. So we can tell loss of unnecessary sense organs. The parasite, unwanted sense organs and all, it has removed. That is one parasitic adaptation. Loss of unnecessary sense organs. And if it has to cling to attach to the stomach and intestine, it should not be washed out by the digestive juices and all. It should have structures like hooks and suckers, right? We can tell they have certain structures, so adaptive structures which are called hooks and suckers. So the parasite possesses adhesive structures. What are the adhesive structures which will help them to stick, like hooks and suckers? They have hooks and suckers so that they can cling to the intestine. They will not be washed out by the digestive juices. And since they are in the digestive system, they can take out the simply digested material, simpler forms they can take out. So they need not digest by themselves. That means digestive system is not at all required. So that's why we can tell for endoparasites, loss of digestive system. They don't have, there's no requirement. Loss of digestive system, we can tell. Okay, then if it is passing through our digestive tract, then our HCl might damage it, our enzymes might damage it. So that's why parasites will form a spore wall, a cyst wall, so that they are not damaged by our intestinal juices or by enzymes or by HCl. So we can tell to protect from enzymes of the host and HCl, the parasite will secrete anti-enzymes and the parasite will have spores or cysts. So when it's having a thick coat called spore or cyst, so nothing will happen even if the digestive juices and enzymes will come also. Now, all unwanted systems and all are lost, but its reproductive potential is very high. We can tell like parasites have very high reproductive potential. They have very high reproductive potential, means one breeding can produce many thousands of offsprings so that they can establish nicely inside the host, damage the host. And they have complex life cycles. The parasites will have complex life cycle. What do you mean by complex life cycle? Having more than one host. Having more than one host. So suppose if one host becomes extinct, the parasite also will become extinct if it is a monogenetic parasite. If it has two hosts, so if one host is not there, at least it can survive. Instead of becoming extinct, it can survive in the other host. That's why it will have complex life cycle. It tries to maintain more than one host. And it has certain protective structures like cuticle. It has protective structures like cuticle to escape from host enzymes and all these things. So all these are the parasitic adaptations. So what did we discuss under parasitism? We discussed what's the definition of parasitism and which type of interaction it is, plus and minus. Parasite plus and for host it is minus. And then we discussed the types of parasites. After that we discussed about that beautiful example of brood parasitism. Then we told parasites are host specific and the host, to avoid the parasite, it will evolve. Then the parasite also will co-evolve. Now the parasite shows certain adaptations. So these are the adaptations. Unwanted sense organs it will not keep. Adhesive structures like hooks and suckers they will have so that it can cling, they are not washed off. Digestive system it is not required because it's there in the intestine. Simply digested materials itself it can take. And then to prevent the host enzymes it will secrete anti-enzyme. To prevent the host HCl it comes with the spore stage and cyst stage. Then they have very high reproductive potentials. They have very complex life cycles so that they can survive in the second host. And they have protective structures like cuticle, and since they're staying inside the intestine where anaerobic conditions are there, so they get adapted to anaerobic conditions, no oxygen conditions. That also we can tell. Majority of the parasites are anaerobic. Majority of the parasites are anaerobic, so that in the deeper parts of the body, like anaerobic conditions is there, they will survive under such conditions only. Take a screenshot, then we'll talk about the next population interaction. The next interaction is commensalism. In commensalism, one species is benefited and for the other species, no benefit, no harm. So, 0 it is. So, 1 plus and the other one is 0. That's what the definition I wrote here. Now, when we have to talk about examples of commensalism, the first example is orchid growing as an epiphyte on top of a mango tree. There are some plants, so they need sunlight, but if they are in the soil, if they are growing at the soil surface, they can't get the sunlight because the trees are canopying them. So, that is why these small plants, sometimes they grow on top of the trees, they grow on the trunk of the trees as an epiphytes. So from the mango tree, the orchid is not taking anything, food, nothing it is taking. It is just sitting on top of the mango tree so that it can receive the sunlight. So for orchid plant it is positive, for mango nothing, so 0. The second example is small fishes will be there which are called barnacles. Barnacles go along with the whales. Now when whale is hunting and eating a big animal, so now whatever the torn out, left out, thrown out pieces are there, they are taken by the barnacle. So barnacle is getting the food, but for whale no interaction, so 0. The third classical example is cow and the bird which is going along with it. So the classical example is a cattle egret and the grazing cattle. The grazing cattle, cow will be grazing on the grass and all. Now along with that cow, you might have seen like cranes and all, birds and all will follow the cow. Why? When the cow is grazing on the grass, so the insects and all will flew and they come up. When the insects are coming up, so now the bird can catch the insect and eat it nicely. So for this bird, it is getting benefited. It's picking up the insects. But for cow as such, nothing. So 0 for cow, plus for the bird. Next one is sea anemone and the clownfish. If you have seen this animated Disney movie called Finding Nemo, there we have seen clownfish. A beautiful, pretty fish will be there. Now clownfish, in order to hide itself from the predators, it makes a sea anemone as its house and it hides inside. Sea anemone has stinging tentacles and all. So the predator will not like to come and touch the tentacles because it gives foul smell and odor. So clownfish is protecting itself by hiding inside the sea anemone. So no benefit for the sea anemone, 0 for the sea anemone, but clownfish is getting, Nemo is getting benefited. So positive for this one. Next example is pilot fish, sucker fish on the shark. The whale like barnacle is getting benefited from the whale in the same manner. Small fishes like pilot fish and sucker fishes will eat the left out parts after the shark eats. Shark will hunt and eats. Afterwards, what are left out pieces are there? So those things are eaten by sucker fish and the pilot fish. They are benefited, but for shark, nothing interaction. Now lianes on the trees in tropical rainforest. Tropical rainforests are very dense forests. Now if they are small tendril like plants and all, so if they are at the bottom surface, soil surface, they cannot get the sunlight. So that's why these lianes will climb on the trees and they will try to get the sunlights. So lianes in dense tropical forests also, for liane positive, and for tree nothing, 0 interaction. Then jackal will follow the lion. So jackal will not kill any animal. Lion and tiger are the top predators. They will kill the animal and whatever they want to eat, how much ever they want to eat, they will eat. Afterwards, the left out material is eaten by the jackal. So jackal is benefited, for lion and tiger 0 interaction. Next one is sea anemone and the hermit crab. Like hermit crab moves the sea anemone from this place to the new place. So for hermit crab, no interaction, for no benefit, it is 0. But sea anemone, since it's moving from one place to another place, it is getting benefited. So sea anemone and hermit crab, this came in Neet 2017 examination. They asked sea anemone and hermit crab which type of interaction it is. Since hermit crab can move, it goes to the new place, it hunts and eats, so nothing for hermit crab. But for sea anemone, since it is changing its place, so benefit for sea anemone, it comes under commensalism. The last interaction is plover and the crocodile. Now plover is a small bird. When crocodile sleeps, it opens its mouth and it sleeps. When it opens its mouth, so now it has some insects on its mouth, leftover meat pieces and all will be there. Now the plover bird will get into its mouth, take that insect, come it out, take that meat and it comes out. So these are the examples of commensalism, where we have to tell one species is benefited plus other species is neutral, 0. So I'll share the pictures, you can see them also. So the examples are orchid growing as an epiphyte on the mango tree, first example. Barnacle growing along with the whale, second example. Classical example is the bird and the cow. Fourth example is sea anemone and the nemo fish, clone fish. Next one is pilot suckerfish with the shark. Next one is lians, tendril-like plants going with the trees in tropical rainforest. Jackals along with lion and tiger. Sea anemone and hermit crab interaction. Plover bird and the crocodile interaction. So this is about commensalism. The fifth interaction, I wrote it here, it is amensalism. In NCERT textbook for amensalism, they gave one species is getting harmed, the other species it is 0, right? So for amensalism, what interaction we can give means we can write it as minus and 0, means one species is harmed but for other species no interaction. For commensalism, plus 0 means for amensalism minus and 0. So in this interaction, one species does not allow the other species to grow. One species will not allow the other species to grow, that is called as amensalism. In NCERT they didn't give the examples, but for a better understanding, for knowledge sake, let us see some examples here. The first example, we call some crops as smoother crops. What are the examples of smoother crops? Barley, sorghum, sunflower. They will release some chemicals around and they will not allow the weeds to grow around themselves. So means this plant, sunflower, barley and all, they are called smoother crops and they're releasing chemicals not allowing the weeds to grow is an example for amensalism. Next example is black walnut. Secretes, black walnut scientific name is Juglans nigra. It secretes a chemical called juglone, which inhibits the growth of apple and tomato. So this plant is inhibiting the growth of apple and tomato. So there's another example, marigold, beautiful flower marigold. Marigold also will secrete some chemicals and it will not allow the soil nematode to grow around. Last example, Alexander Fleming discovered an antibiotic called penicillin, right? So penicillium is a mold, will not allow the bacteria to grow. Which bacteria? Staphylococcus to grow. So 4 examples we have taken under amensalism. Amensalism means minus and 0. The first example, smoother crops will not allow the weeds to grow around. The second one is black walnut will secrete a chemical, will not allow the apple and tomato to grow around. Third one is marigold will not allow the soil nematode to grow around. The fourth example is penicillium mold will not allow the bacteria to grow around. So we finished 4th and 5th interactions. Take a screenshot. We'll talk about the last interaction, which is called as mutualism. Now, the last interaction is parasitism. Yeah, it is mutualism. Now, mutualism is also called symbiosis. Why is it called symbiosis? Symbiosis means, or mutualism means, both the organisms are getting benefited. Means we have to give plus and plus symbol. Minus and minus symbol, recollect, we have given for commensalism, where both are harmed. Here we will give plus and plus symbol for both the organisms. So it is example for symbiosis or mutualism. So the last interaction is which is also called symbiotic association. Now, the examples of symbiotic associations. What do you mean by symbiotic association? Both the species are benefited. In that interaction, both the species are benefited. So, let us see one by one. The first example is lichens. Now, lichens are associations of algal members with fungi. Algae with fungi is called lichen association. The algal component is called phycobiont and fungal association is called mycobiont. Algal component is called phycobiont, fungal component is called mycobiont. If algae and fungi both are living together, then that association, that biotic association is called lichens. What benefit they get from each other? As we told, both plus and plus, what benefit they get from each other means algae, since it is photosynthetic, it will prepare the food and it gives to the fungi. And fungi gives shelter to algae. So both are benefited. Now second type of mutualistic interaction we have to see means it is mycorrhizal associations. Now mycorrhizal associations means, so these are the associations of the roots, okay, with the fungi. So fungi show symbiotic associations with the roots of the higher plants like pinus. Example is pinus. Means in the pinus, fungi will go and show symbiotic association. As we told, this is also example of symbiosis. What benefit the fungus will get, what benefit the plant will get. Fungi, since it grows like hyphae mycelial network, fungi can grow deep into the soil, absorbs more water, absorbs more minerals, particularly it absorbs more phosphate minerals and gives it to the plant. And plant gives food and it gives shelter. Now the fungi is absorbing more water, giving it to the plant, absorbing more minerals, giving it to the plant, more phosphate, giving it to the plant. Plant gives shelter and plant gives food to the fungi. This is one more example for symbiotic association. Another example, we can take Rhizobium bacteria with Leguminaceae plants. Rhizobium bacteria with Leguminaceae plants. Rhizobium bacteria shows symbiotic association with the roots of the Leguminaceae plants. So what benefit the bacteria will get, what benefit the plant will get. Rhizobium bacteria fixes nitrogen in the plant. It helps in nitrogen fixation because it can synthesize an enzyme called nitrogenase. So the plant will fix nitrogen, the bacteria will fix nitrogen, give it to the plant. And what the plant will do? Plant will give food to the bacteria, it gives shelter to the bacteria. Now we can take, this is bacteria for cyanobacteria, or we can go with actinomycetes member. Example for actinomycetes is Frankia. Frankia shows symbiotic association with the plants like Alnus and Casuarina. So this came in again in NEET examination. Now Frankia, which is an actinomycetes member, helps in nitrogen fixation in the plants like Alnus and Casuarina. Similarly, we can go with cyanobacteria like Nostoc. Nostoc grows in the coralloid roots of Cycas, which is a gymnosperm, and Anabina. Anabina grows with the Azolla plant. So all these are the examples, they help in nitrogen fixation. So we are just checking out with the mutualistic associations. The first association is lichens. Lichens are associations of algae with fungi. Algae will prepare food, fungi will give shelter. The second one is mycorrhiza. In mycorrhiza, what is that? It is symbiotic associations of fungi with the roots of higher plant. Fungi will absorb water, minerals, and plant will give food to the plant, pinus plant. The third one is Rhizobium bacteria will do nitrogen fixation. Plant will give food and shelter to the bacteria. Next one, actinomycetes member, Frankia, will do nitrogen fixation in plants like Alnus and Casuarina. Then Nostoc, which is a cyanobacteria, will grow in the Cycas plant, symbiotic association, nitrogen fixation. Anabina with the Azolla plant. So these are some examples. Take a screenshot, we'll continue. Now, the most spectacular, fascinating examples of symbiosis comes with plant-animal associations. Now, plants and animals both are benefited vice versa with each other. So, the most fascinating and evolutionarily important examples, symbiotic associations, are seen among plants and animals. Now, what benefit the plants get from animals means animals will pollinate the plants. They are pollinators. This is one. And animals will help in seed dispersal. They eat of the fruits and they disperse the seeds to new places. So the two benefits the plant is getting is they get pollinated by the insects and they help in seed dispersal. Now coming to animals, what benefits the animals will get means animals can eat certain pollens as food. They eat fruits. They collect nectar also, honey. So these are the benefits the animals are getting. So this is a fascinating, very beautiful example, symbiotic association between plants and animals. Now if plants are evolved a period of time, that animals also will co-evolve. We can tell that plants and animals will co-evolve to maintain their mutualistic association. Now this, I think this is the fourth example. Now coming to the fifth example, we can go with the fig fruit or the fig flower we can go. Now if you see the fig flower is pollinated by wasp. What is the name of the wasp called? Blastophaga. Fig inflorescence is hypenthodium inflorescence. The inflorescence is like this. It's a closed inflorescence. This is a swollen thalamus. Now here unisexual male flowers will be there. At the bottom unisexual female flowers will be there. And at the center sterile flowers are there. Gall flowers are there. Neuter flowers, gall flowers are there. Now the Blastophaga insect comes inside. Now through this orifice the Blastophaga is coming inside. Why is the insect coming inside? Means to lay the eggs. The insect comes inside to lay the eggs. Where it will lay the eggs? If it lays the eggs inside the male flower, it's not good for the plant because the male flower is getting affected. If it lays the eggs in the female flower also, then also the fertility is getting affected. So the Blastophaga will not cause any harm. It's neither going to lay the eggs in the male flowers or in the female flowers. These are sterile flowers, right? Sterile flowers means no use for the plant. So in the sterile flowers it lays the eggs. Now while it is going, or when it's going from here to other place, it will pick these pollen grains and go. On its body it takes the pollens. So and that pollens will come and drop inside the female plant. So on the female flower it is dropping the pollens. For dropping the pollens it is coming, or for laying the eggs it is coming? For laying the eggs it is coming. So while laying the eggs it will drop the pollens which is present on the body also. Both are getting benefited. So the fig is getting pollinated. It gets converted to fruit. Blastophaga is laying the eggs and the young ones will come out. So this is also another example. Going to the sixth example, we can tell Yucca and Pronuba moth. Yucca plant with Pronuba moth. Now this Yucca plant, if you see, is pollinated by Pronuba moth. The moth will come and it will open its ovary. Okay, it will open its ovary and goes inside to lay the eggs. It will go inside to lay the eggs. While the moth is coming out, it has to seal it, right? So how will it seal this gap? Means from the surrounding parts it collects the pollen grains. With the pollen grains it will seal it. So it is collecting the pollen grains to seal it. Now these pollens can go inside and they can fertilize the female flowers. That means indirectly the Pronuba moth is helping in pollination of the Yucca plant. So that's a benefit the Yucca plant is getting. What benefit the moth is getting? Moth is going and laying the eggs inside the plant body. So this is again a symbiotic association. Now another example we can give is ruminants, which helps in cellulose digestion. Certain bacteria which are present in the rumen of the cattle, they secrete cellulase enzyme, and that cellulase enzyme is used for digestion of cellulose. Now cow, goat and all, they eat grass. For digesting the grass cell wall, it needs cellulase enzyme. Those organisms cannot synthesize cellulase enzyme. The bacteria, the ruminating bacteria which are present in the rumen will secrete cellulase enzyme that helps in digestion of their food. And what benefit the bacteria is getting? Bacteria is getting shelter, bacteria is getting food from the animal. So all these are interactions of the last one, mutualism. And a beautiful example is there Ophrys, which is a Mediterranean orchid. This Mediterranean orchid flower, it shows sexual deceit. One petal of the flower resembles like a female insect. So thinking it like an insect, the male flower will come for copulation. The male flower will come for copulation thinking it's a female flower. But when it comes and lands, then it notices that this is not an insect, it is a flower. Now when it comes and lands on this flower, it takes the pollen grains. And it goes and lands on other flower also, right? So that's why it's called pseudo copulation. When it's coming and dropping on one flower, it collects the pollen grains. When it goes and drops on the other one, it will drop those pollen grains then. So that means here Ophrys, which is a Mediterranean orchid, it is showing a sexual deceit to get pollinated by the moth. So all these are examples of organisms and population chapter. In this manner only you have to read the chapter, each and every line of NCERT. So we'll meet in the next episode with a new chapter. If you like the content, like, share, subscribe to my channel. Thank you.